In the endless silence of the cosmos, there are no footsteps, no voices, no sounds of movement. There is only the faint hum of stars burning in their own quiet way, the long exhalations of galaxies expanding into eternity, and the delicate whisper of time itself. When you close your eyes and imagine drifting beyond Earth, beyond the warm light of the sun, beyond even the familiar planets that circle our star, you enter an ocean of blackness so wide, so unbroken, that even the concept of distance begins to lose its meaning. Out there, among the infinite dark seas, the ordinary becomes rare, and the rare becomes extraordinary. For most of human history, we believed that our solar system was a closed sanctuary. We imagined that all the comets, all the asteroids, all the drifting fragments of stone and ice belonged to this one family, tethered by the gravity of our sun. For centuries, telescopes watched the heavens and charted the dance of these local bodies. The familiar comets returning again and again, the asteroids weaving their patient orbits in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. We assumed that what we saw was the whole story. But then, in the quiet of recent decades, our instruments revealed something else, something unexpected, something that did not belong. An interstellar visitor. Imagine, for a moment, the immensity of such a journey. Picture a fragment of matter, perhaps born in a distant star system, circling a star that is not our own. Maybe it was once part of a planet, or perhaps the frozen remnant of some failed world that never fully came together. A collision, a gravitational tug, or a catastrophic event might have cast it loose, ejecting it into the eternal night. For millions, or even billions, of years, it drifted silently. No one to witness it. No world to call it home. Only the pull of distant stars, nudging it gently as it wandered across light years of nothingness. And then, against all odds, it reached us. When astronomers speak of interstellar visitors, their voices often carry a sense of reverence. These are not merely rocks or comets. They are messengers from other worlds, emissaries of alien systems, carrying with them secrets of chemistry, history, and origins far beyond our sun's domain. To find one is to open a window onto the unknown. To study one is to touch, in some small way, the fabric of another part of the galaxy. The first time we recognized such a visitor, the scientific community was shaken. For decades, theories suggested that fragments from other stars must exist, but no one had ever truly seen one, measured it, traced its impossible path across our skies. And then it happened. Instruments detected an object, moving at a speed, on a trajectory, that no solar system body could match. It came from outside. It would never stay. It was a traveler, simply passing through. Even in the stillness of a night sky, where stars seemed frozen, this one moved with quiet determination. It did not belong to the cycles we knew. It did not fit the predictable patterns of returning comets or circling asteroids. It was something new, something vast in its implications. And as we watched, as astronomers traced its path, the realization grew. Our solar system is not isolated. We are not alone in the sense of cosmic traffic. Other worlds cast their fragments outward. Other systems send their remnants across the galaxy. From time to time, one of these fragments brushes past our sun, a silent traveler, reminding us that the universe is larger, more connected, and more mysterious than we ever dared to believe. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing on a hillside, far from city lights. Above you, the night sky opens wide, filled with constellations you may or may not know by name. The Milky Way stretches like a river of light, each star a sun, each sun perhaps with its own system of planets and comets. Somewhere out there, in one of those countless systems, an object was born, billions of years ago. Perhaps it orbited peacefully for eons, until some violent shift cast it away. That object, adrift, has traveled longer than the age of human civilization. And tonight, it passes near us. There is a strange comfort in this thought. The universe is ancient, vast, and indifferent. Yet every so often it delivers a small sign of its interconnectedness. A fragment of stone or ice from a world we will never see. A reminder that even across the blackest distances, paths can cross, encounters can happen, stories can converge, if only for a brief moment in eternity. The discovery of the first interstellar visitor awakens something in us. Curiosity, wonder, but also humility. For in that drifting fragment of matter, there was a mirror held up to our own existence. Just as it traveled through the void, so do we. Our Earth, our Sun, our solar system, all of it is moving through the galaxy, tracing a great arc around the center of the Milky Way. We too are travelers. We too are passing through. As the days and nights passed, astronomers turned their instruments toward this fleeting visitor. They measured its speed, its brightness, its strange, elongated shape. They debated what it was, a comet, an asteroid, something stranger. The answers were elusive, but the mystery only deepened the fascination. For once, science was face to face with something undeniably foreign, undeniably beyond our usual horizons. And the public, too, felt the weight of this encounter. Headlines spoke of alien visitors. Artists painted impressions of a long cigar-shaped rock tumbling through the stars. Poets compared it to a messenger, a ghost, a relic from beyond. In every interpretation, one feeling remained constant: wonder. This is where our story begins. In that feeling, in that deep breath of realization, when we look up at the night sky and understand that we are not the sole keepers of this space, that from time to time, across the gulfs of darkness, we are visited, that our sun, our planets, our fragile blue earth, are but one stop in a journey far larger than ourselves. And tonight, as we drift deeper into the mystery, we prepare to meet not just one, but perhaps another visitor, the possibility of a second object, following in the wake of the first. A companion, a pursuer, or perhaps simply another traveler on a parallel road. Whatever it is, the stage is set, the silence of space awaits, and we are here to listen. When we pause to think about what it means for something to come from beyond our solar system, the mind almost struggles to hold the scale of it. Our home, the solar system, is vast by human standards. From the warmth of the sun out to the icy fringes of the Oort cloud, it stretches for trillions of kilometers. Light itself, the fastest thing we know, takes hours just to move across this domain. And yet, compared to the distances between stars, our solar system is but a tiny island, a small oasis in a desert without end. The nearest star beyond our sun, Proxima Centauri, is more than 4 light-years away. 4 years is how long it takes light, traveling at nearly 300,000 kilometers every second, to make the journey. A spacecraft of ours, even the swiftest ever launched, would take tens of thousands of years to cover the same gulf. The emptiness between stars is not just empty, it is immense beyond ordinary comprehension. So when an interstellar object drifts into our system, it is not simply a stone from another place. It is a messenger that has crossed a wilderness so incomprehensibly vast that we can scarcely imagine its patience. Its journey is longer than our species has existed, longer than the memory of human history. And when it finally brushes past our sun, for just a fleeting moment, we are witness to its passing. The rarity of such encounters cannot be overstated. For billions of years, our solar system has orbited the center of the Milky Way, circling slowly, completing a single lap only once every 200 million years. During that journey, countless fragments must drift across the galactic sea, cast out from collisions, births, and deaths of other worlds. Yet only on the rarest of occasions do we happen to be in just the right place, at just the right time, to notice one. And rarer still is the ability to recognize it for what it is. Until very recently, we had no confirmed evidence that interstellar travelers even existed in our skies. Astronomers suspected they must be there, hidden among the countless comets and asteroids that pass silently across the night. But the speeds, the trajectories, the faintness of light, they made the task nearly impossible. It was like searching for a grain of sand in the middle of a desert, while the desert itself kept shifting with the wind. And yet, despite the odds, our instruments grew sharper, telescopes grew more sensitive. Computers became capable of scanning vast amounts of data, noticing small anomalies in the motion of distant points of light. Then, one day, the patterns revealed a secret. An object that was not bound to the sun, an object with a path that told a story of another origin. Think of the wonder of that moment. After centuries of gazing into the heavens, after decades of refining our tools, we finally caught a glimpse of a traveler from another star. The feeling is not unlike standing on the shore and watching a bottle wash up from a distant land. It may be simple in appearance, perhaps nothing more than wood, glass, or stone. Yet within it lies proof. There are other shores, other journeys, other worlds beyond the horizon. As the news spread, scientists and dreamers alike felt a ripple of awe. For in that visitor, we saw more than just a fragment of matter. We saw connection, confirmation. The universe is not separate islands of isolation, but a vast ocean where fragments cross paths, where journeys overlap, even if only once in an age. And what makes these moments even more profound is their brevity. An interstellar object does not linger. Its speed is too great, its trajectory too open. It enters arcs gracefully around the sun, and departs again into the void. A brief hello, a passing glance, and then it is gone forever. The span of human attention may watch it for months, perhaps a year, and then never again. The traveler does not return. There is beauty in that fleetingness, the knowledge that what we witness is unrepeatable, that for all of human history to come, this particular object will never pass our way again. It is a once-in-an-eternity encounter, and we happen to live in the age to see it. How rare, how precious, how humbling. Imagine, again, the night sky. You are lying on your back in a quiet field, the world asleep around you. Above, the stars shine cold and steady, each a reminder of distances too great to measure. Somewhere, among those lights, an object was born, long before you were alive. Long before Earth had cities, or languages, or names for the stars. That object traveled silently, patiently, across the gulfs of space. And tonight, it glimmers faintly in our telescopes, whispering that its journey has brought it here. The rarity of such encounters also tells us something deeper about time itself. Human lives are brief, measured in decades. Civilizations rise and fall across centuries, but interstellar objects carry with them the silence of ages. To drift across even a fraction of the galaxy requires spans of time so immense that our history is but a flicker by comparison. When we look at such a traveler, we are not only looking outward into space, we are looking backward into time. We are seeing the memory of another system, frozen in the body of stone or ice, preserved across eons, finally arriving at our doorstep. Astronomers often say that to study such an object is to hold a sample of another world without ever leaving our own. We cannot yet travel to the stars. We cannot yet send ships across light years, but sometimes the stars send us a gift, a fragment, a clue, a story written in the shape and chemistry of a solitary traveler. To examine it is to read a page of the galaxy's grander book, one that has been closed to us for so long, and yet, as wondrous as that thought is, it is accompanied by humility. For every object we manage to see, how many countless others have slipped past unnoticed? How many have come and gone, invisible to our eyes, their journeys unrecorded, their presence unmarked? Perhaps thousands, perhaps millions, perhaps more than we could ever imagine. The one we see is just a whisper of a much greater chorus, a reminder that the universe is ceaselessly in motion, endlessly sending fragments on paths we may never witness. This is why the appearance of a second visitor feels so profound. The first was an awakening, a revelation, but the possibility of another, so soon after, begins to suggest something deeper, not an isolated chance, but a pattern, not a solitary note, but perhaps the beginning of a melody. It invites us to wonder, are we standing at the threshold of discovery, where interstellar visitors are not impossibly rare, but inevitable, where the galaxy itself is more alive, more interconnected, than we ever allowed ourselves to believe? As we drift deeper into this thought, the night grows quieter, the stars remain above, eternal witnesses to all journeys, and within that silence, we prepare ourselves for the idea that the story is not over, that what we have seen is only the beginning, that another visitor may already be near, waiting to write the next chapter of this cosmic tale. The first interstellar visitor, the one that startled us and filled our imaginations, seemed like an impossible gift. We told ourselves that it might never happen again in our lifetimes. The odds, after all, were too long. To see even one fragment drift across the boundaries of our solar system felt like a miracle. It was as if lightning had struck once in the endless desert of the cosmos, and we were fortunate enough to witness its light. But then, whispers began to spread. Astronomers watching the skies noticed signs, faint and quiet, that another object might be following. The idea itself felt almost too bold to accept. A second traveler. So soon, was it chance, or something more? To imagine such a thing is to imagine the universe reaching out twice. Two voices carried across the silence, two separate stories suddenly intersecting with ours. The possibility is both thrilling and unsettling, for in the appearance of a second, the rare becomes less rare. The unique becomes part of a pattern. The cosmos, in its vast unknowability, begins to look just a little more familiar. Close your eyes and drift with me into the darkness where these visitors reside. The blackness between stars is not empty, it is alive with potential, with drifting bodies that carry the scars of their origins. Imagine two of them, cast free from the same birthplace, perhaps siblings from a shattered world orbiting another sun, or perhaps strangers to one another, ejected from entirely different systems, whose paths just happen to cross within our small corner of the galaxy. One arrives first, the other lingers behind, chasing, not in the deliberate way of a predator or a companion, but in the silent geometry of cosmic motion. To us, it looks like pursuit. One object following another across the canvas of the sky. To them, if lifeless fragments can be said to know anything, it is only the inevitability of physics. Two stones tumbling through eternity, their paths brought near for a brief and passing moment. Still, the image is hard to resist. A second interstellar visitor chasing the first. A pair of travelers, unknowingly linked, their journeys converging at the doorstep of our sun. The scientific mind asks questions. Could they be fragments of the same event, cast out together long ago? If so, we may be witnessing the echoes of a collision that shattered a planet, or the frozen debris of a star's violent outburst. Could they share the same age, the same composition, the same origin? If we could measure them both, compare their makeup, their motions, we might learn not only where they came from, but also how the galaxy itself exchanges material between its many worlds. But beyond the science, the imagination stirs. To dreamers and poets, the thought of two interstellar objects appearing near each other is irresistible. They become characters in a cosmic story. Companions, wanderers, perhaps messengers, carrying secrets not in words, but in the simple fact of their existence. Their chase across the heavens becomes a reminder that even in the loneliest reaches of space, there is the possibility of connection. Now picture the solar system from far above. The planets are beads of light circling the sun, each on its path, each in its rhythm. The outer darkness stretches wide, filled with frozen comets and forgotten fragments. Into this clockwork pattern drifts the first visitor, carving its brief arc across the sun's domain, and behind it, faint and patient, another arrives, tracing a parallel road. From that grand vantage, the story looks simple, two small specks crossing a field of giants. But to us, who watch from the surface of a fragile blue planet, it feels like something greater. It feels like the universe leaning close to remind us of its mysteries. There is a softness to this reminder, though the interstellar visitors do not roar or blaze like meteors. They do not demand attention with sudden light. They glide quietly, slowly, their presence revealed only through careful measurement. Subtle changes in brightness, tiny motions against the backdrop of stars. Their chase is not one of speed but of patience. It unfolds across weeks, months, years, long enough for astronomers to wonder, and for the rest of us to dream. In those dreams, we are free to imagine. Perhaps these travelers carry the chemical seeds of life. Frozen molecules that hint at biology beyond Earth. Perhaps they are simply inert stone, lifeless relics of forgotten worlds. Or perhaps, in ways we cannot yet measure, they carry information patterns in their structure, traces of processes we do not yet understand. Each possibility is a story, and each story reminds us that the galaxy is more complex than the small corner we call home. The thought of pursuit also touches something deep in the human spirit. We are creatures of narrative, drawn to the idea of one following another, of motion linked by meaning. When we hear that a second visitor is chasing the first, our minds imagine intent. We wonder if they are bound, if their fates are tied, if their story is somehow shared. Rationally, we know they are only fragments obeying gravity and momentum. Yet, in the stillness of the night, when the stars are bright and the air is cold, we cannot help but let imagination fill the silence with possibility. And perhaps that is the true gift of these visitors. Not only the data they provide, not only the scientific knowledge we may extract, but also the invitation they offer to dream beyond ourselves. To step outside the boundaries of Earth, and even the solar system, and to imagine the galaxy as a place of stories and connections. Of meetings and partings, of journeys that intersect in ways we may never fully understand. In the end, whether the second visitor is truly chasing the first, or merely appears so from our vantage, the effect is the same. We are stirred. We are reminded. The universe is not static. It is alive with motion, with chance encounters, with fleeting miracles that pass before us and vanish again into the dark. And we, fragile and brief though we are capable of seeing them, of naming them, of weaving them into our story. So as you drift now into the quiet of night, remember that the story of these visitors is not just about stone and ice moving through the void. It is about perspective, about recognizing the wonder in the rare, the fleeting, the unexpected. It is about finding meaning in the silence, and connection in the vastness. The first interstellar traveler opened our eyes. The second, perhaps, opens our hearts. For in the chase across the stars, we glimpse not only the physics of motion, but the poetry of existence. A reminder that even across billions of years and trillions of kilometers, paths can converge, stories can align, and we can, for a brief and fragile moment, bear witness to the extraordinary. And with that thought, let us rest in the silence of space. The visitors continue their journey. The stars continue to burn. The universe continues to unfold in ways beyond our comprehension. All we can do is watch, wonder, and dream. The quiet of space is rarely broken, yet our instruments are always listening. Each night, telescopes across the world sweep the skies, tracing arcs of light, searching for subtle shifts, measuring the endless stars. To most of us, the sky appears unchanged, eternal. But to astronomers, the night is alive. It is a tapestry in motion, with comets weaving long tails, asteroids shifting gently against the constellations, and faint galaxies shimmering at the edge of perception. It was within this ceaseless watching that a new object was noticed. One that would soon become known as 3I ATLAS. The name itself tells part of the story. 3I means the third recognized interstellar object, following in the footsteps of two others that came before it. The designation carries the weight of rarity. In all of history, only a handful have been identified as true wanderers from beyond our sun's grasp. An atlas refers to the telescope that found it. The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, a wide-field survey designed to catch potential hazards before they come too close. Atlas is not a single telescope, but a network of eyes, quietly scanning the heavens for motion. It is built to protect us, to warn of comets or asteroids that might cross Earth's path. Yet in March of 2020, its patient gaze captured something different, a faint smear of light, moving not quite as expected. At first, there was little reason to suspect anything unusual. The sky is filled with comets, after all, icy remnants of the early solar system, glowing as they draw near the sun. This one looked, at first glance, like just another member of that family. It brightened as it approached, its tail faint but visible, its core whispering with the energy of sublimating ice. Astronomers logged it, catalogued it, and gave it the provisional name C, 2019 Y4, another comet in a long history of comets. But as days passed, the orbit began to reveal its secret. Calculations showed that its path was not bound to the sun. It was not circling back in a long, elongated loop like most comets. Instead, its motion suggested something far grander, a trajectory from beyond, an open-ended arc that would carry it through our solar system only once, before it departed forever. This was no ordinary comet. This was an interstellar traveler. To understand the enormity of this realization, we must pause. Imagine the solar system as a great invisible bubble, stretching far beyond the planets. Filled with icy debris in the Oort cloud, most comets we see are born from this vast reservoir, disturbed from their slumber and sent falling toward the sun. Their orbits are long, but still tied to our star. They will return, again and again, until they are spent. But 3I-ATLAS was different. Its orbit was hyperbolic, a curve that does not close, a line that does not return. It came from elsewhere. Its speed was too great, its path too free. No gravity of the sun could hold it. Like a visitor stepping briefly into a room before slipping out the other side, it was only passing through. Astronomers felt both excitement and caution. The excitement came from the knowledge that once again, we were witnessing something profoundly rare, a piece of another star system drifting into ours. The caution came from memory. Only a few years earlier, the first interstellar object, Oumuamua, had startled the world with its bizarre, elongated shape and puzzling behavior. Its strangeness had sparked endless debate, even speculation about alien origins. Now, with 3I-ATLAS, scientists were careful to study methodically, to measure, to avoid the rush of sensationalism. Still, even with caution, the sense of wonder was undeniable, for in that faint streak of light lay an entire story we could only guess at. Where had it come from? What star had once warmed it? What ancient collisions or gravitational dances had cast it free? And how many eons had it wandered the void before, by sheer chance, crossing paths with us? As telescopes across the globe turned their eyes toward it, 3I-ATLAS revealed itself as a fragile body. Its nucleus, small and weak, began to fragment under the strain of solar heat. The cometary tail, once a faint plume, grew diffuse, shimmering like a ghost in the night. It was as though the traveler was dissolving before our eyes, unable to withstand the intensity of its brief encounter with the sun. For astronomers, this fragility was bittersweet. On one hand, it meant less opportunity to study a pristine fragment from beyond. On the other, it revealed the vulnerability of these objects, the delicate balance they carry between endurance and dissolution. Perhaps this fragility itself was a clue, a sign of how different materials and histories shaped the life of a comet, whether born here or elsewhere. Even as it faded, the significance of 3I-ATLAS grew. To call it the third interstellar object was not just a technical label, it was a milestone, a marker in humanity's expanding awareness. In a galaxy of billions of stars, we had finally begun to notice the small fragments wandering between them. Like casting a net into a vast ocean, and after countless empty hulls, finally pulling up rare and shimmering fish, we had proof that the ocean was teeming, that the fragments were real, and that our solar system was not isolated. Think of the patience required. The universe drifts at a pace beyond our measure. Interstellar objects have likely passed through our skies for billions of years. Unseen, unmeasured, their journeys unnoticed. Only now, with sensitive telescopes and patient watchers, do we begin to catch them in the act. To be alive in this moment, when the sky is finally revealing its rarest secrets, is a kind of fortune beyond measure. And so, in the spring of 2020, amid a world turning inward with its own troubles, humanity looked outward and found 3I-ATLAS, a faint, fragile reminder that we are part of something larger, that the universe sends us gifts, not in abundance, but in rare, fleeting visits, that the story of the stars is not only distant, but sometimes drifts close enough for us to see, measure, and wonder. The discovery was not an end, but a beginning, for with each interstellar visitor, new questions are born. And with 3I-ATLAS, those questions grew louder. Was it alone? Or could there be others nearby? Could it be part of a greater story, a pair of travelers, or even a stream of fragments crossing our sky? Little did we know, the answer was already waiting, faint in the dark, whispering of a second presence yet to come. When astronomers first turned their telescopes toward 3I-ATLAS, they did so with a question that has followed nearly every wandering object we have ever studied. What exactly are you? To the untrained eye, the distinction may seem unnecessary. A comet, an asteroid, both are small bodies of rock, ice, and dust, drifting silently in space. Yet to scientists, the difference matters. Comets carry frozen water, carbon dioxide, and other volatile elements, preserved since the dawn of their birth. Asteroids, by contrast, are more solid, rocky, and often the remains of larger bodies broken apart. To know whether 3I-ATLAS was one or the other was not simply a matter of classification. It was a clue to its history, its origin, and the distant system from which it came. At first, its behavior seemed clear. As it drew nearer to the sun, it brightened rapidly. A diffuse coma, that glowing shroud of gas and dust, surrounded its nucleus. A faint, trailing tail stretched away from the light, a banner proclaiming its icy nature. Surely this was a comet, a true interstellar one. That in itself was enough to inspire awe, a frozen relic from another star, awakening briefly as it felt the touch of our sun's warmth. But almost as soon as the excitement settled, the mystery deepened. Comets are fragile, yes, but 3I Atlas was exceptionally so. Its nucleus began to fracture, breaking into smaller pieces that drifted apart, their glow fading. Within weeks, what had been a promisingly bright comet dissolved into a ghost of itself, barely visible to telescopes that had once watched it with ease. Why had it broken apart so quickly? Some scientists suggested that its structure was weaker than that of most comets, a loose assembly of dust and ice, held together more by delicacy than strength. Perhaps, after eons of drifting through interstellar space, cosmic rays and thermal stresses had weakened its bonds, leaving it brittle and ready to crumble. Others speculated that the sun's gravity, combined with its increasing heat, had tugged the fragile body past a threshold it could not withstand. Still, there were stranger possibilities. A few astronomers wondered whether 3I Atlas might not have been a single visitor at all, but part of a larger story, a fragment of something else. Could it have been related to other interstellar objects? Could its sudden disintegration hint at an origin we had yet to imagine? As these questions circled, comparisons to the earlier visitor, Oumuamua, became inevitable. Unlike 3I Atlas, Oumuamua had shown no coma, no tail. It had resembled not a comet but a bare rock, or perhaps something even stranger, a shard of material shaped by forces we could barely guess at. Its trajectory had puzzled scientists, its acceleration unexplained by ordinary physics. Some had whispered, cautiously, of the possibility of artificial origins. Though no evidence confirmed such speculation, the thought lingered in the public imagination, casting a long shadow. Now, with 3I Atlas, the contrast was striking. Here was an interstellar object that behaved very much like a comet, with tails and gas emissions and a textbook appearance, and yet, in its fragility, it defied easy explanation. If Oumuamua had been too strange to fit our categories, 3I Atlas was almost too fragile, too fleeting, dissolving before we could learn its secrets. The debate unfolded quietly, in journals, conferences, and midnight discussions between astronomers. Was 3I Atlas truly a comet, or was it a transition object, something in between? Was it possible that the very act of traveling between the stars changed these bodies in ways we did not yet understand? Imagine an icy fragment ejected from the edge of a distant system, flung into the cold dark for millions of years. What radiation would it endure? What collisions, what slow processes of erosion? By the time it reached us, would it still resemble the comet it once was, or would it be transformed into something new, something fragile and ghostly? There is a quiet humility in such questions. Science, for all its precision, must often stand before mysteries it cannot yet answer. With 3I Atlas, the observations were limited. It came, it brightened, it fractured, and it faded. Its secrets, for the most part, remained its own. And yet, even in the face of uncertainty, knowledge grew. From its brightness, scientists could estimate its size, perhaps a few hundred meters across, before it broke apart. From its orbit, they could trace its journey, inbound from far beyond, outbound again to the stars. From its spectrum, they could see the faint signatures of familiar molecules, hints of water, dust, and organic compounds. These fragments of data, though incomplete, were like pieces of a puzzle, glimpses of a larger picture. For those who watched closely, there was also a lesson in impermanence. Not all treasures of the cosmos endure. Some blaze briefly and vanish, like 3I Atlas, dissolving into faint wisps of dust. To encounter such a thing is a reminder that not all mysteries can be fully grasped. Sometimes, they are to be witnessed, wondered at, and remembered, and perhaps that was fitting. After all, if interstellar visitors were to behave in ways we already understood perfectly, they would not stretch our imagination, nor remind us how vast and varied the universe is. The strangeness of 3I Atlas, its fragile life under the sun, was part of its gift to us. It left us with new questions. Are interstellar comets generally more fragile than their local cousins? Does the long, lonely journey between stars erode their strength? Could they be messengers, carrying not only material but also mysteries, reminders that we do not yet know the full story of small bodies in the galaxy? As it faded into the darkness, astronomers adjusted their telescopes, their data, their theories. They wrote papers, argued quietly, and filed away what little could be known. To the casual observer, the comet was gone. To the scientific community, it had become a permanent entry in the growing record of interstellar encounters. And beneath it all, a whisper of possibility remained. If 3I Atlas was here, if Oumuamua had been here before it, then surely more must be on their way. The galaxy was not still, it was alive with fragments, travelers, wanderers, and perhaps, just beyond the reach of our current instruments, another visitor was already drawing near. Every discovery in astronomy is followed by silence. A comet brightens, a star flickers, an object streaks across the night sky, and then comes the pause, the stillness, where minds begin to turn inward and ask the most enduring of questions. What does this mean? When 3IATLAS revealed itself as an interstellar traveler, the silence was heavy with possibility. The data showed it came from beyond, its hyperbolic orbit undeniable. Yet the deeper question lingered in the background. Was this a solitary wanderer, or a member of something larger? We are accustomed to thinking of comets and asteroids as lone fragments, drifting without kin. But the truth is more nuanced. Many small bodies are fragments of greater wholes, born of collisions or tidal disruptions. Some arrive in families, linked by common ancestry. Others are scattered remnants of larger streams, dispersed but still faintly connected. The possibility arose, could 3IATLAS be one such fragment, not traveling alone but accompanied, perhaps even chased by another? The thought was not without precedent. Within our own solar system, we have seen comets break apart, leaving behind multiple pieces that trace similar paths. The famous Shoemaker-Levy 9, shattered by Jupiter's gravity, fell into the planet in a train of fragments, one after the other. Even within the Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud, families of comets share origins, betraying their common parent bodies. Why should interstellar space be different? And so, a subtle shift in thinking occurred. 3.1. Atlas might not have been a singular messenger from the stars, but one of several. Perhaps the universe was beginning to send us not isolated visitors, but groups, fragments of distant collisions that would, one by one, pass through our skies. Some astronomers pointed to the fragile nature of 3IATLAS itself as evidence. If it had already broken apart once, or even many times, then what were the chances that other pieces had been ejected on similar trajectories? The disintegration we witnessed under the sun's heat might have been only the final act of a much longer drama, one that began far away, in another system where gravity and impact first tore the body into pieces. If that were true, then the possibility was thrilling. Another fragment might not be far behind. Speculation bloomed gently. It was not loud, nor hurried. Science rarely is, especially with such rare events. Instead, quiet calculations filled research notes, trajectories were compared. Possible links were drawn between 3IATLAS and other faint objects whose orbits hinted at similar origins. Each new fragment of data was like a whisper, suggesting that the story was not yet finished. The public imagination, of course, runs more quickly. For those who had followed the saga of Oumuamua, with its cigar-like shape and its unexplained acceleration, the arrival of 3I Atlas seemed like the opening of a series. First one, then another. Surely there would be a third, a fourth. Were we, perhaps, on the threshold of recognizing that interstellar visitors were not rare accidents but part of the natural rhythm of the cosmos? And if so, what did that mean? To answer, we must step back and consider the galaxy itself. Each star is born in a cluster, surrounded by dust, gas, and countless small bodies. Many of these are flung outward in the chaos of planetary formation, ejected by gravitational slingshots into interstellar space. Over time, the galaxy fills with such fragments, comets, asteroids, shards of ice and rock, wandering the dark between stars. If the galaxy is an ocean, then these objects are its drifting plankton, uncountable, spread wide, crossing paths only by chance. From that perspective, it would be stranger not to encounter them. What is remarkable is not their existence, but our ability, at last, to notice them. The fact that we have found 3 interstellar objects in such a short time, first Oumuamua, then Borisov, then 3IATLAS, suggests not rarity but abundance. They are not exceptional, they are common. We were simply blind to them until our instruments grew sharp enough to see. This realization changes the question. No longer do we ask, will we see another? Instead, we ask, when will we see the next? And beyond that, will some of them come in groups, related by origin, chasing each other across the stars? With 3I Atlas, the question pressed harder. Its fragile breakup, its fleeting nature, its hyperbolic path, all seem to hint at companions unseen. Could another fragment already be near, following on a similar course, slipping quietly into our solar system's light? The idea of a second visitor, one chasing the first, holds a particular kind of allure. It suggests a narrative, a cosmic story unfolding not in isolation but in sequence. Imagine it, 2 fragments born of the same distant collision, wandering through the dark for countless millennia, only to arrive at our doorstep within years of one another. The odds seem improbable, yet the cosmos often delights in improbabilities, and so, even as 3I Atlas faded from view, telescopes remained vigilant. Astronomers combed the skies for new intruders, their eyes sharpened by the knowledge that these travelers existed in abundance. If one could appear, and then another, perhaps a third would not be far behind. For the dreamers among us, the speculation drifted even further. If these objects were fragments of alien systems, then they were not only rocks and ice, but carriers of history. Each one bore within it the chemical fingerprint of another sun, another nursery of planets, another story of formation and change. To study them was to study the galaxy itself, not as distant light but as tangible matter, fragments we could touch, analyze, and hold. The thought of multiple visitors, arriving in succession, felt almost like a conversation. The universe was not silent, but speaking, slowly, in the language of drifting stone and ice. Each fragment a word, each visitor a sentence, together forming a story we were only beginning to read. For now, the story of 3I Atlas ended in dust, but endings in astronomy are never final. They are transitions, markers on a longer journey. The fading of one comet only sets the stage for the next discovery, the next whisper from the stars. And in the quiet aftermath of 3I Atlas, a question grew louder in the minds of those who watched carefully. Was it truly the third interstellar object, or was it the first of a pair? As months passed, and as telescopes continued their watch, hints began to emerge. Subtle signals, faint trajectories, whispers of a second presence. Something else was out there, moving quietly, following its own path. Not identical, but related. Not bound, but perhaps connected by chance or origin. A second interstellar visitor. The thought lingered, gentle and persistent. If true, it would not only confirm the abundance of such travelers, but deepen the mystery of their origins. Two visitors, chasing one another across the stars, slipping into our skies within such a brief span of years, a reminder that the universe is not empty, but full of motion, connection, and quiet surprises. And so, with 3I Atlas gone, astronomers turned their gaze outward again, waiting, searching, listening. Somewhere in the darkness, another traveler was already on its way. After 3I Atlas faded into silence, the sky seemed emptier for a time. The excitement of discovery had been followed by the melancholy of loss. Astronomers who had tracked its fragile brightness night after night now returned to the familiar rhythm of surveys, the endless patient scanning of the heavens for faint motion against the backdrop of stars. The cosmos gives and takes at its own pace. One cannot demand a revelation, nor summon a visitor at will. The only path is vigilance, the constant listening, the quiet waiting. Telescopes swept their arcs, cameras recorded their exposures, and the data poured in, filling servers with streams of numbers and images. Much of it was routine. Asteroids near and far, known comets returning on their long cycles, a background of galaxies so distant they seemed frozen in time, yet hidden within the ordinary. Sometimes, there lies something extraordinary. Not long after the fading of 3I Atlas, faint observations began to suggest the presence of another object. At first it appeared unremarkable, no brighter than countless others, but its motion drew attention. Subtle differences in its path hinted at something unusual. Its speed, its inclination, its trajectory did not align neatly with the familiar patterns of bound objects. Still, caution prevailed. Many a discovery has begun with excitement, only to settle into the mundane. The first rule of astronomy is patience. An unusual orbit can be the result of incomplete data, a miscalculated position, or even the flicker of noise in the instruments. Night after night, the object was tracked, its position plotted, its arc traced across the sky. Slowly, the data grew more reliable. Slowly, the path revealed itself. It was not bound to the sun. The realization came gently, as calculations converged. The orbit was hyperbolic, not elliptical. Its eccentricity, that key measure of whether an object will return, was greater than 1. This was the same signature that had revealed Oumuamua and later 3I Atlas as true interstellar travelers. Now, once again, the numbers whispered the same truth. This newcomer had come from beyond. Another visitor, for those who had lived through the discoveries of the earlier two. The moment was both exhilarating and strangely sobering. What had once been unthinkably rare was now happening again, within the span of a few short years. To see one interstellar object in a lifetime had been remarkable. To see two, astonishing. To see three, and now, perhaps, a fourth, suggested a pattern. The galaxy, it seemed, was speaking to us more often than we had ever realized. The newcomer was different from 3I Atlas, where Atlas had brightened quickly, flashing into view with a fragile tail that soon disintegrated. This new object was steadier, less volatile. Its brightness grew, but more slowly. Its nucleus seemed intact, resistant to fragmentation. Some thought it resembled an asteroid more than a comet, though time would be needed to confirm. Others noted faint signs of activity, a suggestion of dust and gas, though not nearly as dramatic as Atlas's brief blaze. Differences aside, the essential fact was clear. It was interstellar. Its path traced not to the Oort cloud, nor any familiar region of our solar system, but to the open dark between stars. Once again, a fragment of another world had slipped into our neighborhood, visible for a fleeting moment before it would depart forever. For the astronomers who first confirmed it, the thrill was quiet but deep. These were not the dramatic announcements that capture headlines, not yet. Instead, it was a sense of joining a growing story, a narrative written in data points and orbital plots. They knew what it meant, not an isolated event, but evidence that such encounters were part of the natural rhythm of the galaxy. And beneath the calculations, there was also wonder. Where had this new visitor come from? Was it flung outward by the gravity of a massive planet in some distant system? Was it the shard of a collision, ejected long ago from the birth of an alien world? Did it once orbit a star we might one day find light years away, its identity hidden among the countless suns of the Milky Way? Each question stretched the imagination further, out into the spiral arms of our galaxy, where billions of stars give birth to billions of worlds, each with its own debris, its own stories. Somewhere, in one of those systems, the journey of this small fragment had begun. Now, impossibly, it was here, visible through the lenses of our instruments, whispering of its long, silent voyage. The resemblance to 3I-ATLAS was not lost on anyone. Two interstellar comets, or perhaps one comet and one asteroid, appearing so close in time, invited comparison. Were they connected? Did they share an origin? Or was it mere coincidence? A reflection not of a shared past, but of a present awakening in our own perception. Perhaps the universe had always sent such visitors, but only now, with watchful eyes and sensitive technology, were we able to notice them. In the stillness of observatories, under the dark sweep of night, such thoughts lingered. The glow of screens, the hum of instruments, the quiet ticking of clock drives on telescopes, all of it framed by the silent immensity of the stars overhead. Within that silence, a truth grew clearer. 3I, Atlas, had not been alone. Whether by kinship or by chance, another traveler had followed, and we had been fortunate enough to catch sight of it. For those who dream, the idea of pursuit held a certain poetry. One comet chasing another, both racing across the void, their paths briefly intersecting with ours. Perhaps they had set out together, fragments of a larger body torn apart long ago, now separated by light years yet reunited in their brief passage through our skies. Or perhaps they were strangers, their only connection the vast sweep of probability that had delivered them to us in succession. Science, of course, demands caution. Probability must be measured, connections confirmed. But imagination is less bound, and in quiet moments, it wandered freely. Two visitors, arriving so close together, felt like a message. Not in any literal sense, not a signal carved by intention, but a natural message nonetheless. Proof that the galaxy is alive with motion, with fragments, with stories drifting across the void. The first hints of this second visitor were not dramatic. They were quiet, almost hidden, requiring patience to recognize. Yet in their quietness lay their power. Each observation, each calculation, each confirmation added another brushstroke to the picture. Slowly, inevitably, the image emerged. We were not witnessing an isolated wonder, but the opening of a pattern. And as the newcomer brightened, as telescopes continued their vigil, the questions grew louder. If two interstellar travelers had revealed themselves within such a short span, how many more might be passing unseen? What stories had drifted by unnoticed in centuries past? And what stories, still unknown, were already on their way toward us, crossing the dark with patient silence? For now, it was enough to know this. 3I, Atlas, had not been the last, nor the only. Another visitor was here, slipping into the solar system with quiet grace. And with its arrival, the mystery deepened, the narrative expanded, and the galaxy itself seemed a little less distant. When two strangers cross our path in such close succession, it is natural to compare them. One cannot help but place them side by side, noticing what is shared and what is unique. With the arrival of a second interstellar visitor, astronomers began this quiet exercise setting 3I-ATLAS and the newcomer against one another in their minds, as if holding two stones from different shores and wondering about the oceans that had carried them. 3I-ATLAS, as we remember, was fragile. It entered our view with brightness and promise, only to fracture and dissolve beneath the sun's heat. Its life as a visible comet was brief, a spark that burned out too soon, leaving behind only questions and faint trails of dust. Its nature seemed uncertain, clearly a comet by its outgassing yet strangely delicate, as though weakened by its endless journey through the dark. The second visitor carried itself differently. From the beginning, it appeared more stable, more resistant to the sun's pull, where Atlas brightened quickly and then fell apart. The newcomer brightened slowly, steadily, almost cautiously. Its nucleus seemed intact, a solid body, untroubled by fragmentation. To many, it resembled an asteroid more than a comet, a bare traveler, carrying little or no ice to sublimate, revealing its presence not with a glowing tail but with quiet persistence. This difference alone was striking. Two interstellar objects, arriving within years of one another, yet behaving so differently, one fragile, ghostly, dissolving into nothing. The other stable, solid, almost indifferent to the sun. If nothing else, this contrast revealed the diversity of fragments wandering the galaxy. They were not all the same. Some carried frozen ices, whispering of comets born in alien systems. Others were bare rock, stripped of volatiles long ago. Some lived briefly in light, others endured. Yet there were similarities too, and these carried their own fascination. Both objects followed hyperbolic paths, their eccentricities greater than one, confirming that they were not bound to our sun. Both moved at speeds consistent with origins in the wider galaxy, not local reservoirs. And both, perhaps most importantly, arrived not in isolation but in sequence. Close enough in time to suggest that the galaxy may be more generous with its visitors than we had imagined. For scientists, these comparisons led to careful questions. Was it possible that the two objects were fragments of the same event, broken apart long ago and sent drifting on parallel courses? Or were they unrelated, their shared arrival merely a coincidence revealed by our improved ability to notice? The idea of kinship is tempting. In our own solar system, families of comets and asteroids are common. A single collision can scatter debris along similar paths, creating groups that remain loosely connected across time. Could the same be true in other systems? Could some distant star have cast out a family of fragments, now spread across light years, arriving at our doorstep one by one? Yet caution tempers imagination. The distances are vast, the timescales immense. To link to such objects by common origin requires more than poetic intuition. Their trajectories, while both hyperbolic, diverged in detail. Their physical appearances differed sharply. If they were kin, the evidence was faint. More likely, they were strangers, each with its own origin story, each crossing our skies by chance. And still, even as strangers, their pairing meant something profound. For centuries, humanity had looked outward and assumed interstellar objects were beyond our reach, too rare to be seen, too scattered to be caught. Oumuamua's discovery had broken that assumption. 2I Borisov had confirmed it. 3.1 ATLAS had deepened it. And now, this second visitor alongside Atlas underscored it further. The galaxy was not still. It was alive with motion, filled with fragments. We had simply not been listening carefully enough before. The contrast between the two objects also reminded us of the richness of cosmic history. Each fragment is a record of the processes that shaped it. A fragile comet dissolving into sunlight tells of icy reservoirs, volatile materials, and long journeys through cold darkness. A stable asteroid-like traveler speaks of rock, collisions, and resilience. Together, they sketch a picture of diversity. Alien systems are not uniform, and the fragments they cast into the void carry countless variations of composition, structure, and fate. In quiet discussions, scientists reflected on the larger meaning. Two visitors, so different and yet so similar in their interstellar nature, suggested that the galaxy's supply of wanderers was vast and varied. If we had already encountered such diversity in only a handful of objects, what richness might await in the countless others still unseen? Some thought ahead to the future. What if we could one day send probes to intercept these visitors, to study them up close? Each one is a sample, a messenger from another world, carrying within it the chemistry of a different star's nursery. To touch such material would be to touch another solar system without leaving our own. The dream was bold, but not impossible. Technologies were being considered, missions imagined. The comparison of these two visitors only fueled the desire to prepare, for if interstellar objects were plentiful, opportunities would continue to arise. For now, the comparison remained largely philosophical. Two small bodies, two stories, two fragments crossing our lives for only a moment. They would leave again soon, disappearing into the deep, where no telescope could follow. Their presence was temporary, but their meaning lingered. In their differences, they reminded us of diversity. In their similarities, they reminded us of abundance. Together, they suggested that we had only just begun to listen to the stories the galaxy has been telling all along. And so, with 3I ATLAS dissolving into memory and the second visitor shining faintly in the dark, astronomers continued their vigil. The comparisons were noted, the data recorded, the papers written. Yet beyond the technicalities, something softer remained. The sense of being part of a conversation, spoken not in words, but in the drifting of stone and ice across the infinite night. When one interstellar traveler passed us by, it was an astonishment. When a second followed, it became a pattern. With a third, and now a fourth, a new reality was settling in. The universe is not silent, nor are its fragments rare. Instead, it is alive with motion, and our tiny solar system is only one of countless crossroads. The larger picture is this. For the first time in history, humanity has begun to notice the quiet whispers of other systems drifting past us. These visitors are not signals in radio waves or messages written in code. They are simpler, more ancient, stones, ice, and dust, set adrift by the violence or the rhythm of other suns. They have no intention, no purpose, no mission. And yet, in their passing, they tell us stories we could not otherwise hear. Each interstellar object is a fragment of cosmic autobiography. One may come from a young system, ejected early by the gravity of a giant planet, carrying the chemistry of a star still in its infancy. Another may come from a dying system, cast off during instability, bearing the scars of collisions. Another may carry exotic ices or unfamiliar minerals, whispering of environments we have never touched. Each one is a messenger, even if it does not know it. For those who look outward, this is more than science. It is a shift in perspective. We had long imagined ourselves isolated, our solar system self-contained, our samples limited to what lay nearby. But now, like finding shells washed up from distant islands, we realize we are connected by the tide of the galaxy itself. We are not separate. We are part of a larger motion. The arrival of multiple visitors in succession also raises deeper questions. How many such objects are out there, wandering the void between stars? How often do they pass through solar systems like ours? Were we simply blind before, lacking the instruments to notice? Or are we entering a moment when such encounters are becoming more common? Astronomers estimate that trillions of fragments may drift through the Milky Way at any given moment. Silent wanderers scattered by the restless lives of stars. If even a fraction of them pass near Earth, then our skies are richer than we knew. What seemed once to be extraordinary may, in time, become familiar. The extraordinary may become routine. And then there is the dream of contact. Not contact with civilizations, but with material itself. The thought that one day, we might catch one of these objects, study it, perhaps even touch it. Missions are being sketched in the imagination of engineers, spacecraft designed to launch quickly, to intercept the next interstellar traveler. To capture its dust, to analyze its chemistry. Each encounter would be a chance to study another star's debris without leaving our own cosmic neighborhood. A shortcut to interstellar exploration. Philosophers, too, have taken note. To them, these objects symbolize something greater than science. They remind us that we are not alone, not because of other beings, but because of connection. The galaxy is not static. It is restless, and its restlessness crosses our paths. Just as winds scatter seeds across the earth, stellar winds and gravity scatter fragments across the stars. We, standing here on one small world, are witnesses to this scattering. We are part of it. The poetic truth is that the galaxy speaks in fragments. It does not send us full planets, nor intact systems. It sends us shards, whispers, pieces of broken histories, and if we listen, if we pay attention, we can begin to hear its language. A fragile comet that dissolves in sunlight says something different than a solid rock that endures. Together, they tell a story of diversity, of abundance, of change. And what of us, the observers? What does it mean for humanity to stand beneath the night sky and realize that objects from other stars have passed through our lives? Perhaps it means humility that we are not the center of the galaxy, not isolated, but part of a flowing exchange we only now recognize. Perhaps it means opportunity, that the galaxy is already offering us material to study, if only we are willing to catch it. Or perhaps it means wonder, the simple joy of knowing that we are connected to something greater than we can measure. For those lying awake at night, listening to these stories told softly, it might mean something quieter still. It might mean reassurance. That even in the vast silence of space, there is movement. That even across unthinkable distances, fragments cross paths. That the universe is not empty, but alive, carrying travelers from everywhere to everywhere. The second visitor, compared to the first, deepens this lesson. It tells us that 3I Atlas was not alone, that Oumuamua was not a fluke, that Borisov was not the only comet of its kind. The galaxy is filled with such wanderers. We live not on an island, but at a crossroads where countless paths may intersect. And so, the larger picture comes into focus. Humanity is learning to listen. Our telescopes, our instruments, our patient observations, they are ears turned to the sky, beginning to hear the footsteps of travelers we once thought impossible. Each visitor is fleeting, but the lesson endures. The Milky Way is restless, and we are part of its restlessness. As the second interstellar visitor fades, as its path carries it beyond our reach, the thought lingers. Somewhere out there, more are coming. Some we will miss, slipping by unnoticed. Some we will catch, if we are ready. And each one will carry a different story, a different whisper from another star. For now, we rest in the knowledge that we are not alone in the night, not because of voices or signals, but because of motion, because of fragments drifting, because of visitors who cross our sky, reminding us that even in silence, the galaxy is speaking. And as you close your eyes, as sleep begins to settle, imagine the slow, steady drift of those objects through the dark. Imagine them crossing the gulf between stars, silent but not meaningless. Imagine that above you, beyond you, all around you, the universe is alive with travelers, and we, here on Earth, are simply one place among many where they pass. Night after night, while most of the world rests, telescopes across the Earth turn their eyes upward. They sweep across the sky in slow arcs, taking picture after picture, frame after frame, like a painter brushing layers of color onto a canvas. These instruments, silent and tireless, are our watchers in the dark, guardians of the heavens, whose task is both simple and profound. To notice when a point of light shifts where it should not. To notice when the familiar pattern of stars is joined by something faint and new. To notice when the background of eternity changes, even slightly. For centuries, human eyes alone performed this vigil. Astronomers, perched at the eyepiece of telescopes, charted the heavens with pencil and paper. They mapped planets, traced comets, and discovered asteroids. But the human eye, sharp as it can be, is limited. It grows tired. It can miss what is faint or fleeting. And so, in our age, we have given this responsibility to machines, vast survey telescopes armed with sensitive detectors, programmed to sweep the skies systematically. Among these, the Pan-STARRS survey in Hawaii is one of the most famous. It was Pan-STARRS that first glimpsed the elongated form of Oumuamua in 2017, that mysterious sliver of rock from beyond the stars. Pan-STARRS works by capturing repeated images of the same portion of sky, then using software to compare them. Stars, fixed and constant in their positions, remain unmoving from image to image, but anything closer, an asteroid, a comet, a fragment of stone, betrays itself by motion. It shifts slightly, a point of light crawling against the backdrop of eternity. It is in this way that the first interstellar objects were found, not by accident, but by patience. Astronomers do not scan the heavens looking for anything specific. They simply watch, cataloging, and letting the sky reveal what it will. Like listening for a faint note in an endless symphony, they train their tools, not on certainty, but on possibility. And yet, even with modern technology, the task is delicate. Interstellar visitors are small and faint. They do not blaze brightly across the sky, like planets or even most comets. They appear instead as pinpricks, barely distinguishable from the stars themselves. Their speed betrays them, for while asteroids and comets bound to the sun move in graceful, predictable arcs, an interstellar traveler cuts across the stage differently, faster, straighter, as though unwilling to pause. To detect such motion requires persistence and careful attention to detail. Future instruments promise even more. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory, under construction in Chile, is one such dream. When it begins its operations, it will perform what is called the Legacy Survey of Space and Time, a decade-long all-sky map captured in unprecedented detail. Every 3 nights, Rubin will re-image the entire visible sky, creating a time-lapse of the heavens. With this, no moving object, no matter how faint, will go unnoticed. Asteroids, comets, even the most elusive interstellar fragments will leave a trace in its archives. Think of it, a telescope that, in a single sweep, can reveal the restless choreography of the solar system and beyond. A telescope that will catch visitors we might otherwise have missed, their brief crossings recorded not as accidents but as inevitabilities. But it is not only Rubin. Other sky surveys, like the Catalina Sky Survey in Arizona or Atlas, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, also keep watch. Each plays its role in this silent collaboration. Together, they form a network of eyes, covering the sky so that no stone drifts past unnoticed. And while the telescopes are great in size, they are also fragile in spirit. Each night depends on whether clouds may close the heavens, storms may shake the domes. The instruments must be cared for, calibrated, their detectors cooled, their mirrors cleaned. There is something almost human in their vulnerabilities, a reminder that even our most advanced machines must bow to nature. Yet when the skies are clear, when the instruments hum quietly, the results are remarkable. Images pour in, hundreds at a time, vast mosaics of stars, galaxies, and faint unknowns. Software scans them, searching for changes, comparing pixel by pixel. Most of the time, what is found is ordinary. An asteroid circling the sun, a comet making its return, a satellite flashing as it passes. But sometimes, just sometimes, the data shows something that does not belong. A faint light, moving just a little too quickly, on a path that curves not into an ellipse but into a hyperbola. That is the moment of wonder. That is the moment when a new traveler is revealed. And in that moment, science is transformed into story. A discovery that begins as numbers in a computer becomes a narrative. An object from another system, another sun, has entered our skies. Something alien, in the truest sense of the word, has joined the familiar constellations. It may stay only briefly. It may shine faintly, but its very presence changes how we see the universe. This is the role of the tools of discovery: to extend our senses, to catch what would otherwise pass unseen, to hold open the curtain of the cosmos and let us glimpse the wanderers who drift between the stars. For those lying awake, listening, the thought itself is soothing. While we sleep, machines on mountain peaks keep watch. Their domes rotate gently. Their mirrors reflect the ancient light of distant suns. Their detectors record, patiently, faithfully, without rest. We need not fear missing these cosmic visitors, for the tools we have built are tireless. They are our companions in the night, reminding us that we are never truly blind, even in the vastness of space. And so, as we think of 3I Atlas, of Oumuamua, of Borisov, and of the second visitor that followed, we remember that each was revealed to us by these instruments, machines built by human hands, yet dedicated to something larger. They are our bridges to the stars, our quiet allies in the quest to notice. The galaxy may be restless, filled with wanderers, but we are no longer unaware. We have given ourselves the means to listen and to see. The tools of discovery are open, their eyes wide, waiting for the next faint traveler to cross the sky. The first glimpse of a visitor is only the beginning. A faint point of light moving where it should not be. That is discovery. But to understand what it means, astronomers must follow the trail. They must trace its path across the heavens, measure its motion, and ask the question that matters most. Is this traveler bound to our sun, or is it simply passing through? The answer lies in orbits. Every object that circles our star follows a curve determined by gravity, a graceful ellipse, described long ago by Kepler and Newton. The planets sweep in near-perfect ellipses, bound forever. Comets trace stretched ovals, sometimes taking hundreds or thousands of years to return, yet still tethered to the sun's pull. Even asteroids, scattered and restless, remain caught in its invisible net. But an interstellar object is different. Its path does not bend into an ellipse. It stretches outward, refusing to close. The mathematics calls this a hyperbola, a curve that opens endlessly, never returning. The eccentricity, the measure of how stretched the orbit is, tells the story clearly. For bound objects, eccentricity is less than 1. For a parabolic comet balanced on the edge of escape, it equals exactly 1. But for an interstellar traveler, the number is greater than 1. It is not bound. It does not belong. To reach that conclusion, astronomers must gather data quickly. The visitor moves fast, often tens of kilometers per second, racing across the sky. Each night they measure its position against the background stars, plotting tiny shifts that reveal its trajectory. The more data points, the clearer the orbit becomes. A single night can hint, a week can suggest, but months are needed to know for certain. During this time, a quiet urgency fills the astronomical community. Observatories around the world turn their telescopes toward the object, coordinating to catch it before it slips away. No one nation owns the sky. In these moments, astronomy becomes deeply collaborative, data shared openly, positions confirmed by colleagues continents apart. The trail is followed by many eyes, each contributing a piece of the puzzle. Brightness, too, becomes part of the story. A comet brightens as it approaches the sun, its ices vaporizing into a glowing coma and tail. An asteroid remains steadier, its light changing only with distance and reflection. By charting these variations, scientists infer what the visitor is made of, whether it carries ice from another system or is a bare fragment of rock. Sometimes, the trail reveals surprises. 3.1 ATLAS, for instance, brightened rapidly and then fragmented, its pieces scattering and fading. Oumuamua, by contrast, showed no clear tail but accelerated slightly, as though faint jets of gas were pushing it. Each change, each anomaly, is written into the object's motion. Following the trail means not only mapping its orbit but also watching how it behaves, how it responds to the sun's warmth, how it endures the journey. Behind the mathematics lies something more human, the sense of pursuit. Astronomers describe the process like following footprints in snow or tracking a ship across the ocean by its wake. The object is always moving, always changing, always just ahead. Each observation narrows the uncertainty, draws the path more sharply, until at last its future is clear. The hyperbola extends, pointing outward into the void, telling us that this traveler will not stay. And so, the act of following becomes an act of farewell. From the moment of discovery, astronomers know their time is limited. The visitor is already on its way out, its approach fleeting. Weeks, months, perhaps a year, that is all. To study it requires vigilance, for when it fades into the distance, there will be no return. In the stillness of observatories, this urgency is quiet but present. Instruments are tuned, observing schedules are shifted. Nights are dedicated to gathering as much as possible before the trail vanishes. It is like speaking with a stranger passing through town, knowing you may never meet again. Every word matters. Every detail must be remembered. The mathematics, though complex, unfolds into something simple and elegant. From tiny dots of light recorded on different nights, a picture emerges. The speed, the direction, the exact path through space. Computers refine the calculations, turning uncertainty into precision. In the end, the orbit becomes a map, not just of where the visitor is, but where it came from and where it will go. Often, the backward trace points not to a specific star, but to the general swirl of the galaxy. The distances are too vast, the times too long, for a clear origin to be named. But even this tells a story. It says the object has wandered for millions, perhaps billions of years, crossing interstellar space before finding us. It is a reminder that what we see is only a chapter in a much larger journey. To follow the trail, then, is to glimpse both past and future. Past, in the realization that this traveler was cast out of its home system long before our species even existed. Future, in the knowledge that it will continue long after, moving on into the galaxy once more. Our encounter is a moment, nothing more. But through careful measurement it becomes a moment preserved, a story we can tell. And perhaps that is the deeper meaning. The universe is filled with motion, with fragments drifting endlessly. Most will never be noticed, but a few, for a brief time, leave trails we can follow. To trace them is to connect, however, briefly, with something vast to say, here, in this moment, we met, we watched, we learned. And when the trail finally fades, when the object disappears into the darkness, the record remains. Numbers on a page, images on a screen, graphs of brightness and position, but more than that, a memory. The memory of a stranger who crossed our sky, and of the quiet pursuit that let us understand it, if only a little. Once the trail has been followed, once the orbit is traced and the object confirmed as interstellar, the question that lingers is simple: what secrets does it carry? For though each visitor appears only as a faint point of light in the telescope's field, within that speck lies a story billions of years old. It is not just a rock, or a comet, or a fragment of dust. It is a messenger, a piece of another solar system, carrying with it the imprint of a star that is not our sun. What, then, can we learn from such a traveler? The first clues come from light itself. As sunlight reflects from the surface, astronomers split it into spectra, the rainbow of wavelengths, stretched and analyzed until it becomes a fingerprint. In those subtle lines and colors are hints of composition, the presence of water ice, the minerals that make up the rock, the gases released as the object warms. By comparing these signatures with those of local comets and asteroids, scientists glimpse whether the visitor is familiar or foreign. Sometimes, the differences are small. The chemistry may resemble our own comets, reminding us that the processes that form stars and planets are universal. But sometimes, the clues are strange, ratios of elements that do not match anything we know, brightness changes that defy easy explanation, or behavior that seems almost contradictory. These puzzles remind us that the galaxy is richer than any single system, and that diversity is its rule. Oumuamua, the first interstellar object discovered, gave us such a puzzle. Its shape, elongated like a shard, was unlike anything in our catalog. It had no visible tail, no coma, yet it accelerated slightly, as though pushed by some invisible force. Was it shedding faint gases? Was it covered in exotic ice, releasing hydrogen that we could not see? Or was it something else entirely? We may never know, for the object is gone. But in its mystery, it gave us a gift, the realization that we cannot assume all visitors will resemble what we already understand. Borisov, by contrast, behaved like a comet. It released dust and gas in a way that felt familiar. And yet, even there, secrets were revealed. Its gases contained unusual ratios of carbon monoxide, far higher than typical for comets of our solar system. This suggested it had formed in a much colder environment, perhaps on the outskirts of its home system, where Essos could remain frozen for billions of years. A single detail, carried in its tail, painted a picture of an alien birthplace. 31ATLA-S carried its own lesson. Fragile and prone to breaking, it showed how some interstellar visitors may be weakened by their long journeys. The stresses of passing near stars, the endless bombardment of cosmic rays, the slow erosion of space itself, all these may leave travelers brittle, ready to fragment at their first close encounter with the sun. Its disintegration was not a failure but a revelation, a reminder that the paths between stars are not gentle. And the second visitor that followed offered yet another contrast. More stable, more solid, resistant to breaking apart. Together, these travelers showed us that alien systems, like our own, produce both fragile comets and enduring asteroids. Diversity, once again, is the rule. These fragments, small as they are, serve as evidence of the galaxy's restless life. They confirm that other solar systems exist not only in theory but in touchable reality. They send us samples, unasked for and unexpected, like messages in bottles cast into a cosmic sea. And though we cannot yet reach them directly, we can read their messages from afar. But one day, perhaps, we will do more. Already, scientists and engineers dream of missions designed to chase these visitors. Imagine a spacecraft waiting in readiness, built to launch quickly when the next object is discovered. Its engines ignite, its path calculated to intercept as the traveler passes through our solar system. The probe meets it, snapping images, measuring gases, even capturing particles. In that encounter, humanity would hold, for the first time, a piece of another star's history. Projects like this are being considered. The idea of a rapid response mission, or even a probe already stationed in deep space, ready to intercept, is no longer just science fiction. The challenges are immense, the objects move fast, and their arrivals are unpredictable. But the possibility grows more real with every discovery. Each visitor fuels the desire to be ready for the next. If such a mission succeeds, what might we learn? Perhaps we would find minerals unknown on Earth, or ICEs formed under conditions we cannot reproduce. Perhaps we would uncover isotopic ratios that tell us about the age and chemistry of alien suns. Perhaps we would find organics, complex molecules, the building blocks of life, and discover that they, too, are scattered freely across the galaxy. Even without a probe, the lessons are profound. Each visitor teaches us patience. Each reminds us of how vast the galaxy is and how small our window to observe. Each whispers that we are not alone, not in the sense of civilizations or voices, but in the sense of connection. The galaxy shares itself with us, one fragment at a time. And for those listening at night, drifting toward sleep, this thought is gentle and reassuring. The stars are not silent. They send us gifts. Small, fleeting, and fragile, yes, but gifts nonetheless. We do not live in isolation. We live in a galaxy that moves, that breathes, that offers pieces of itself to us without warning. So when the next visitor comes, as surely it will, we will follow its trail, unlock what secrets we can, and dream of what it carries. And even if it fades before we know everything, its passing will have changed us. For to glimpse such a traveler is to glimpse the vast interconnected story of the cosmos itself. In this way, studying interstellar visitors is like reading scattered pages from a book too large to hold. Each page is incomplete. Each tells only a part of the story. But together, over time, they reveal a pattern. The shared history of stars, planets, and fragments, written not in words, but in the slow drift of stone and ice. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is this, that we are readers of this story now, that by building our tools, by watching patiently, by daring to follow and to imagine, we have joined the galaxy's dialogue. We are not merely watching from the shore. We are participants in the tide. So sleep gently with this thought. Above you, beyond you, all around you, countless travelers drift. Some will come our way, others will pass unseen. But each one carries with it the secrets of distant suns, and in their journeys we find our own. When we speak of interstellar visitors, it is easy to imagine them as wanderers without pasts, silent travelers appearing from the darkness, passing quickly, and then vanishing again. Yet each one has a beginning. Each one is shaped by forces older and larger than we can imagine. To understand them, we must ask, not only where are they going, but where did they come from? The story begins in the birthplaces of stars themselves. In the quiet stretches of galaxies, clouds of gas and dust collapse under gravity's pull. Over millions of years, these clouds gather, compress, and ignite. A star is born, surrounded by a whirling disk of material, the raw ingredients of planets, moons, asteroids, and comets. Within these protoplanetary disks, collisions are constant. Tiny grains of dust collide and stick, building pebbles, then boulders, then worlds. But just as often, they shatter. Not everything grows. Some fragments are thrown outward, flung by the gravitational tug of young planets or hurled into interstellar space by violent encounters. This ejection is not rare. It is, in fact, inevitable. For every star, billions of fragments are cast away, never to return. Most of these are small, tiny pieces of stone or ice. But some are larger, the size of comets, asteroids, even dwarf planets. Each becomes an exile, no longer bound to its star. Instead, it drifts through the galaxy, untethered, carried along for eons until chance brings it close to another system, like our own. When one of these fragments enters our solar system, it carries with it the history of its birthplace. Its chemistry is a record of the environment where it formed, perhaps close to a young star where metals condensed, or far beyond where ices froze solid. Its shape, its density, even its fragility, are whispers of those ancient conditions. To study such a visitor is to glimpse not just an object, but an entire foreign solar system. Some interstellar objects may come from binary stars, systems where two suns orbit one another, their gravity weaving a dance so intricate that planets and smaller bodies are often disturbed. In such systems, fragments are more easily ejected, thrown outward by the combined pull of both stars. Others may come from unstable systems where giant planets shift their orbits, scattering debris like billiard balls across the galaxy. There are even more dramatic origins. Some objects could be remnants of collisions, the shattered pieces of worlds that once existed. When planets collide, as they sometimes must in the chaos of formation, the debris is flung outward. A shard of a moon, a splinter of a crust, a fragment of a core, all may become wanderers, carrying with them the story of a catastrophe that unfolded light-years away. In this way, interstellar visitors are not only wanderers, they are survivors. Survivors of the violent beginnings of stars and planets. Survivors of impacts, collisions, and gravitational dances. Survivors of journeys so long that they make human history seem like a momentary flicker. And our solar system is no different. We too send our fragments outward. Each time a comet brushes near Jupiter and is flung outward instead of inward. Each time a collision on an asteroid sends debris flying, a chance arises that some piece will leave the sun's influence entirely. Across billions of years, trillions of fragments may have already escaped from our system, spreading into the galaxy just as others have come to us. It is humbling to imagine that even now, far away, there might be small shards of our own solar system drifting through alien skies. Perhaps in the distant future, another civilization will look up at the night and discover one of our fragments passing silently overhead and wonder about its origin. In that moment, our solar system will have spoken to strangers, just as other systems speak to us. This exchange, fragments trading places across light years, makes the galaxy feel less like an empty void and more like a living, breathing web of connections. Each star is not alone. Each world is not isolated. They share, they scatter, they send messages in the form of stone and ice. These messages are unintentional, but no less meaningful. They remind us that we live in a galaxy that is constantly in motion, constantly mixing, constantly redistributing its parts. And if we think even further, we see that this exchange may be one of the deepest truths of the cosmos. For just as stars scatter fragments of rock and ice, they also scatter atoms. Supernova explode, seeding the galaxy with heavy elements. Winds from dying stars carry carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen outward into the void. What is now in your body, in your bones, in your blood, was once scattered too, cast into space by ancient suns. In this sense, interstellar visitors are part of a larger pattern, the galaxy's endless cycle of creation, destruction, and renewal. They are the physical embodiment of cosmic recycling, reminders that nothing in the universe is truly separate. So when we watch a faint point of light move against the stars, when we calculate its path and recognize it as interstellar, we are not merely seeing a visitor. We are witnessing the outcome of processes that began before Earth itself was formed. We are watching the journey of a fragment that may have left its home before our sun was even born. The origins of these objects are not mysterious in the sense of being unknowable. They are mysterious because they connect us to events so vast, so ancient, and so far away that they stretch our imagination to its limits. They remind us that the galaxy is not static. It is a place of exchange, of scattering, of migration. Stars form, planets collide, fragments are cast off, and over time, the galaxy becomes filled with wanderers. Some are small, some large, some fragile, some enduring, some bright, some dark. But each has a story, and each is proof that we live in a universe of motion and connection. So tonight, as you rest, let this thought drift with you. Every interstellar visitor we glimpse is not only a traveler passing through, it is also a reminder that our galaxy is alive with exchange, that the stars share their fragments freely, and that we too are part of this great cycle. We are not separate observers. We are participants in the same story, woven from the same dust, scattered across the same sea of stars. When we speak of interstellar visitors, much of what we imagine is rooted in what we already know: comets, asteroids, fragments of larger bodies. Yet part of the wonder of discovery lies in what does not fit neatly into our categories. Each visitor may carry surprises, details that challenge our assumptions. And in those moments, our imagination begins to roam more freely. Consider first the idea of unusual ices. In our solar system, comets are made of familiar substances: water, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia. But in colder, more distant regions around alien stars, stranger compounds may freeze. Exotic ices of nitrogen, oxygen, or even hydrogen could coat the surfaces of interstellar bodies. If such a fragment drifts inward toward a new star, those ices might sublimate, driving activity unlike anything we are used to seeing, a faint tail that shines not with water vapor, but with rarer, more delicate gases. Some astronomers suggested this possibility when they studied Amu. Its slight acceleration, unexplained by gravity alone, may have come from jets of hydrogen released from ice hidden beneath its surface, a type of sublimation invisible to our instruments. If true, this would mean Oumuamua carried materials uncommon in our own comets, a reminder that alien systems may preserve chemistries unfamiliar to us. Then there is the thought of shattered moons. Imagine a planetary system where a moon is broken apart by impact or tidal stress. Pieces scatter, some falling into the planet, others hurled into space. Over time, one shard escapes the system entirely, wandering the galaxy as an interstellar object. If we intercepted such a fragment, we might hold in our hands the remains of a world that once circled another sun. Its composition could hint at volcanic activity, liquid water, or other processes that shaped it before its destruction. Other fragments may be coated in dust from deep space. As they drift for millions of years, cosmic rays alter their surfaces, darkening them, reddening them, creating organic-like compounds in thin crusts. An interstellar visitor may look unlike anything in our system, not because it began differently, but because the journey itself has reshaped it. In that sense, the strangeness we see is not only the fingerprint of a birthplace, but also the signature of the voyage. Yet, perhaps the most stirring speculation is that some of these objects might carry the seeds of life. This idea, called panspermia, suggests that life, or at least the building blocks of life, could be scattered across the galaxy by comets and asteroids. If complex molecules can survive the journey between stars, then interstellar visitors may not be just fragments of stone and ice, but couriers of possibility. Imagine a comet forming around a young star. Rich with organics, a collision breaks it free, and it wanders through space for millions of years. Eventually, by chance, it drifts into another system, falling toward a young planet with oceans and warmth. A fragment lands, releasing its chemistry. Perhaps it sparks nothing, but perhaps, in some distant world's tide pool, it helps set in motion a chain of reactions that leads to biology. If so, then interstellar visitors are not only wanderers but gardeners, sowing seeds in places they will never know. We cannot prove this yet. We may never be able to. But even as a speculation, the thought softens the boundaries of isolation. It suggests that life, or at least its raw materials, may be part of the galaxy's great circulation, scattered like dust, carried like pollen, offered freely from star to star. And then, quietly, comes the more daring question. Could any of these visitors be artificial? Could one, someday, be not a shard of rock or ice, but something crafted, a probe, a vessel, or a relic from another civilization? When Oumuamua was discovered, its strange shape and unexplainable motion led some to entertain the idea. Most scientists agreed that natural explanations were more likely, but even so, the suggestion lingered in the air, a whisper of wonder. What if? The power of this question is not in whether the answer is yes or no, but in how it widens our imagination. To consider the possibility is to remind ourselves that the galaxy is vast, and we do not yet know what it holds. It does not mean that we expect artificial visitors, only that we allow ourselves to keep the door open to mystery. In truth, whether natural or artificial, the effect is the same. These objects provoke us to think beyond the limits of our own world. They invite us to ask questions larger than we can answer in a single lifetime. And that, too, is part of their gift. So as we drift deeper into the night, it is enough to hold these possibilities gently. Some visitors may be fragments of frozen hydrogen, carrying chemistries unseen in our system. Some may be shards of shattered moons, their stories written in their minerals. Some may be dust-darkened travelers, reshaped by the long silence of space. Some may even carry the molecules of life. And yes, in our boldest moments of wonder, we can imagine that one or two might even be made, not born. None of these possibilities must be settled tonight. They are not puzzles to be solved before sleep, but dreams to be carried into it. Dreams of strange ices, alien minerals, drifting seeds, and quiet machines wandering through the dark. The universe is vast. Its possibilities are too many to name. And when a faint point of light drifts into our sky, asking us to wonder what it might be, the most honest answer we can give is this: it could be many things, and it is a gift to imagine them all. For all our questions, for all our instruments and calculations, there is a truth we cannot escape. Most interstellar visitors will remain mysteries. They move too fast, stay too briefly, and are often too faint to study in depth. By the time we notice them, they are already leaving us behind. It is a reminder of the limits of our knowledge. No matter how carefully we observe, some details will remain hidden. Was Oumuamua a fragment of exotic ice, a shard of a shattered world, or something stranger still? We may never know. Its path has carried it far from us, into the darkness where our telescopes cannot follow. Its secrets are locked away, drifting beyond reach. Even to Borisov, which offered a more familiar display, revealed only part of its story. We saw its gases, we measured its tail, and we traced its orbit. But we could not know the exact star from which it came, nor the precise history that shaped it. Like a traveler met briefly on a long road, it gave us a glimpse, but not the full tale. And perhaps that is the nature of such encounters. They are fleeting by design. These objects do not belong to us. They are not ours to keep. They are wanderers, and we meet them only in passing. We must learn to accept that much will remain unknown. For some, this is frustrating. We long for answers, for certainty, for clarity. But in the quiet of reflection, we may see that mystery has its own value. It leaves space for imagination. It allows us to dream of possibilities. It pushes us to build better instruments, to refine our methods, to prepare more carefully for the next encounter. Without mystery, curiosity fades. With mystery, it endures. Science itself thrives on the boundary between the known and the unknown. Each unanswered question is not a failure, but an invitation. Each puzzle left unsolved becomes a beacon, calling us to explore further. To study interstellar visitors is to live with this balance, to gather what data we can, to interpret what clues are visible, and to accept with humility what slips away. And in truth, we are not empty-handed. Even when knowledge is partial, it is precious. We know that interstellar visitors exist, a fact once only guessed at. We know that they carry compositions that hint at alien systems. We know that they move freely across the galaxy, crossing the gulfs between stars. These truths, once uncertain, are now part of our shared understanding. What we do not know adds another layer. It reminds us that the universe is vast enough to elude complete comprehension. It tells us that we will always have more to learn, more to seek, more to wonder about. And that, perhaps, is the greatest gift they give us. Not just knowledge, but the unending hunger for knowledge. There is also a gentleness in mystery. When you gaze at the night sky, you do not need to name every star or calculate every orbit. The beauty lies in the experience itself. The quiet light, the infinite distance, the sense of connection. In the same way, interstellar visitors need not surrender all their secrets to enrich us. Their very presence is enough to awaken wonder. And wonder is not a small thing. Wonder is the beginning of discovery. Wonder is what draws us to the telescope, to the classroom, to the laboratory. Wonder is what carried us from myths of the stars to equations of gravity, from stories of gods to spacecraft orbiting Saturn. Without wonder, knowledge withers. With wonder, knowledge grows. So when we accept the limits of what we can know, we are not closing a door. We are keeping it open. We are leaving space for imagination to breathe, for curiosity to grow, for future generations to step forward and continue the journey. The mysteries of today become the discoveries of tomorrow. It may be that one day, humanity will be ready to send probes swiftly enough to intercept these wanderers, to study them up close, to return samples. It may be that our children, or their children, will hold in their hands fragments of alien systems, once only imagined. But until then, the unknown remains a companion, not a barrier, but a guide. In this way, the limits of knowledge are not something to fear, but something to cherish. They remind us that the story is not finished. They remind us that the cosmos is larger than our grasp, richer than our instruments, deeper than our reach. They remind us that we are still beginners in a vast universe, learning step by step. And perhaps, as you rest tonight, this is the thought to carry. You do not need to know all answers to feel connected. You do not need to solve all mysteries to find meaning. It is enough to wonder, it is enough to dream. The visitors that come and go are symbols of this truth. They pass quickly, leaving questions in their wake. And in those questions, we find not frustration, but inspiration. They remind us that life is not about having everything explained, but about living with curiosity. They remind us that discovery is not an endpoint, but a journey. So let the unknown be a comfort. Let the fleeting nature of these encounters be a reminder that beauty often lies in what cannot be held. Let the mystery itself be the lullaby, carrying you gently into sleep. For in the end, we may never know everything about 3i Atlas, about Oumuamua, about the visitors yet to come. But we know this: they exist, they pass our way, and they leave us with wonder. And sometimes, wonder is all we need. When we speak of interstellar visitors, we are speaking not only of science, but of something more subtle, something that touches the heart as much as the mind. For in the faint trace of a distant traveler, there lies a reminder that we are small, that the universe is vast, and that this vastness is not frightening but profoundly beautiful. For as long as humans have looked up at the night sky, the heavens have inspired awe. Ancient peoples watched comets streak across the stars and wondered what messages they carried. To some, they were omens. To others, they were symbols of change, harbingers of endings and beginnings. Whatever the interpretation, one truth was constant. Such sights stirred the imagination and humbled the observer. Now, centuries later, we are armed with telescopes, equations, and spacecraft. We know more than our ancestors ever could. And yet, when a visitor from beyond the stars drifts into our skies, the feeling it inspires is not so different from the awe of those who came before us. Knowledge has sharpened our understanding, but it has not dimmed our wonder. The presence of an interstellar traveler reminds us that our world, for all its richness, is but a single shore in a boundless ocean. The visitor has come from far away, from a place we cannot point to with certainty, from a star that may lie tens or hundreds of light years distant. It has traveled longer than humanity itself has existed, and still it moves, patient and silent. To see it is to glimpse a timescale beyond imagination, to be reminded that our lives are brief threads in a much larger tapestry. There is humility in that thought. Whatever triumphs or struggles fill our days, they are small beside the journeys of these travelers. A fragment of ice, a shard of rock, cast adrift before Earth was born, passes through our sky and then continues on. Our civilizations rise and fall in the blink of its passage. Yet far from making our lives meaningless, this comparison can make them precious. For we, unlike the stone, are aware. We can look up, notice, and feel wonder. We can give meaning to fleeting things. And there is also connection. To see an interstellar visitor is to realize that the universe is not divided into isolated islands. It is woven together. Stars scatter their fragments, and over time, those fragments cross into the realms of others. What passes through our system today may have begun around a distant sun. What leaves us tomorrow may one day pass through the skies of another world. In this way, we are linked, not just by light, not just by gravity, but by the slow drift of matter itself. It is humbling to think that we share this galaxy with so many unseen travelers. Every night, countless fragments pass far away, unnoticed, unmeasured. Once in a while, we glimpse one, and in that moment, we are reminded that we are part of something vast. The galaxy is not empty, it is alive with motion, and we, small as we are not separate from it. This perspective is a gift. In our daily lives, it is easy to feel that the world is all-encompassing, that our concerns, our struggles, our ambitions are immense. But then, with a single discovery, the horizon expands. We are reminded that Earth is one planet among billions, circling one star among hundreds of billions, within one galaxy among trillions. We are reminded that beyond the glow of city lights, there lies an endless depth, waiting. And in that reminder comes peace. For if the universe is so vast, then our worries, while real, need not be absolute. They shrink, gently, against a backdrop of infinity. At the same time, our joys and loves gain a new glow, for they become not just fleeting human experiences, but rare and precious sparks of awareness within a cosmos that otherwise drifts in silence. It is no wonder that interstellar visitors capture the imagination so deeply. They are not just scientific curiosities, they are symbols of motion, of connection, of humility, of beauty. They remind us of how far we have come from myths about omens to spacecraft capable of tracking alien fragments. And they remind us of how far we still have to go. In this way, awe is not only an emotion but a perspective. It is a way of seeing the world, of placing ourselves within the larger frame of the universe. Awe teaches us patience. Awe teaches us humility. Awe teaches us gratitude. When we feel awe, we are lifted beyond the smallness of the moment. We are reminded that we live in a cosmos of breathtaking scale and endless possibility. We are reminded that, though small, we are also part of something immense, and that dual truth, our smallness, our belonging, is the essence of perspective. So tonight, as you think of interstellar visitors, let the feeling of awe settle gently within you. Let it remind you that you are a witness to something rare. Let it remind you that your life, fleeting as it is part of a larger story written in stars and stones. And let it bring you peace, for to be small is not to be insignificant, but to be part of something infinitely greater. If AEW is the first gift of the stars, then imagination is the second. For when humans look up at the sky, we do not simply see. We dream, we wonder what lies beyond, what paths are traveled, and what stories these silent visitors might carry with them. From the earliest myths to the most modern science fiction, the heavens have always inspired our imagination. Long before telescopes or satellites, our ancestors traced meaning in the skies. A comet streaking across the night could be seen as a divine messenger, a signal of fortune or doom. Stars formed patterns that became constellations, each one a story written in light. The planets, wandering through the heavens, were given personalities, powers, and places in myth. In every culture, across every land, the sky became a canvas for imagination. And when an unusual traveler appeared, an interstellar visitor, we did not yet have the science to explain, that imagination blossomed. Ancient peoples might have seen such a visitor as the sword of a god, the soul of a hero, or a herald of change. Even today, with our knowledge of celestial mechanics, that instinct to tell stories persists. We still lean on metaphor, still weave mystery into the unknown. This impulse is not separate from science, it is its companion. For science, too, begins with imagination. Before a telescope is built, before a mission is launched, someone must first wonder. Someone must imagine what might be out there, and then find a way to seek it. Every discovery in astronomy is born of curiosity, and curiosity is imagination, set into motion. Interstellar visitors have always been a special fuel for this fire. They are not like ordinary asteroids or comets, which we can predict and catalog. They are strangers, arriving unannounced, from realms we cannot yet map. Each one is a mystery. And in mystery, imagination thrives. Think of the stories told in literature and art. In one tale, a comet might carry omens of destiny. In another, a rock from the stars might seed life upon a barren world. In science fiction, a visitor could be a probe, a vessel, or even a messenger from an alien civilization. These are not scientific claims, but they are reflections of the human spirit. Our need to connect, to interpret, to see ourselves within the cosmic story. Even today, when astronomers announce the passage of an interstellar object, the public response is not purely technical. Alongside the measurements of orbit and speed, conversations bloom with possibilities. Could it carry frozen water? Could it hold secrets from another sun? Could it even be artificial? These questions, though unlikely in fact, are natural in imagination. They show that wonder is alive, and that the boundary between science and story is more porous than we sometimes admit. And perhaps this is as it should be, for imagination enriches science. It draws people in, sparks interest, and keeps the mystery alive. Without imagination, data would remain numbers on a page. With imagination, those numbers become stories we can feel. Stories of journeys, of origins, of the great cosmic dance in which we, too, take part. The human imagination also serves another role. It connects us across generations. Long ago, a child might have looked at the night sky and invented a story about a fiery traveler. Today, another child, hearing about 3IATLAS or Oumuamua, might imagine it as a messenger from beyond. Across the centuries, the language changes, but the impulse remains. To imagine is to participate in a timeless tradition, a thread of human experience woven through culture after culture. In art and literature, we see this continuity. Painters capture the majesty of comets. Poets describe stars as guides, or as symbols of love, or as metaphors for longing. Novelists envision alien visitors, strange technologies, or journeys across the stars. Each of these expressions springs from the same well, the wonder of looking up, and the desire to fill the silence of space with meaning. It is also important to see that imagination does not cheapen mystery. Rather, it deepens it. To invent stories about a visitor from another star does not mean we dismiss its scientific reality. It means we recognize that reality is always larger than our current understanding, and that stories are ways of reaching toward it. Science tells us what an object is. Imagination asks what it might mean. Together, they create a fuller picture. In this way, the human imagination becomes a bridge. On one side lies what we know, the data, the measurements, the calculations. On the other lies what we feel, the awe, the wonder, the curiosity. The bridge between them is imagination, carrying us back and forth, allowing each to enrich the other. Without that bridge, knowledge risks becoming dry, and wonder risks becoming unfounded. With it, both are alive. And so, when we speak of interstellar visitors, we are not only speaking of physics and trajectory, we are also speaking of art, of story, of culture. We are speaking of the dreams of children, the poetry of thinkers, the visions of storytellers. We are speaking of a human inheritance, the ability to gaze at the unknown, and weave from it a thread of meaning. Tonight, as you imagine these travelers drifting past, allow yourself to join that inheritance. Picture them as fragments of distant worlds. Imagine them as messengers, as seeds, as stories written in stone. Let your imagination wander freely, without needing to be correct. For in that wandering, you are part of the same current that has flowed through humanity for millennia, the current that transforms the silence of the stars into the music of the mind. If awe gives us perspective, and imagination gives us meaning, then wonder gives us direction. Wonder points us forward, reminding us that the story of discovery is not finished, that each new visitor from the stars is not the end, but the beginning of a conversation with the universe. For one day, future generations will look back at this era, our era, and see it as the dawn of something greater. They will read about Oumuamua 2, Borisov, and 3I Atlas, and perhaps smile at how clumsy our instruments were, how limited our knowledge seemed, yet they may also envy us. For we were among the first to notice, the first to realize that these objects existed, the first to glimpse the truth that our solar system is not isolated, but connected. To be present at the beginning of discovery is a rare gift, and we are living in that time now. Imagine a child born 100 years from now, standing beneath a night sky far less hidden by city lights, perhaps aided by telescopes orbiting beyond Earth's atmosphere. For that child, interstellar visitors may not be mysteries glimpsed only briefly. They may be studied in detail, intercepted by spacecraft, sampled, even brought into laboratories. What for us is speculation may for them be knowledge, and yet, the sense of wonder will remain. For knowledge never ends the mystery. It only deepens it. Already, scientists dream of missions that could one day chase these travelers, sending robotic probes to fly alongside them, to taste their chemistry, to record their structures. Perhaps in time, we will see images not of faint dots on distant sensors, but of rugged alien landscapes, frozen plains, or fractured shards shaped by alien suns. The thought itself is wondrous, that in reaching out to these visitors, we are reaching across the galaxy, touching fragments of other systems without ever leaving our own. And yet, wonder is not only about technology or discovery, it is about the human spirit. No matter how advanced our instruments become, the essential experience will remain the same. A human being somewhere will look up at the sky and feel a quiet sense of amazement that a rock, an icy shard, a fragment of matter has drifted across the gulf of stars to pass by our little world. That feeling, unchanged across centuries, is the essence of wonder. Wonder also guides our sense of purpose. It reminds us that we explore not only to know, but to feel connected. We are not separate from the universe, but part of it. Each interstellar visitor is a reminder of that bond. They whisper that the galaxy is not a silent void, but a web of motion, exchange, and story. In following their paths, we are also following threads that lead outward, beyond our familiar boundaries, into the unknown. In this way, wonder becomes a kind of inheritance. We inherit it from those who came before, the stargazers who built myths, the astronomers who crafted telescopes, the thinkers who asked questions, and we pass it forward to those who will come after, to the children who will one day see more than we can imagine. To feel wonder is to participate in a chain of curiosity that spans generations. And perhaps this is the greatest gift of interstellar visitors. Not only the knowledge they bring, but the sense of continuity they inspire. They remind us that discovery is never complete, that mystery is not a barrier but an invitation. They remind us that each answer opens a new question, and that in asking, we keep the flame of wonder alive. For when the night grows quiet, and you imagine a lonely shard of rock passing silently through the stars, you are not just imagining an object. You are imagining a connection. You are imagining yourself as part of a universe that is vast, ancient, and alive. That act itself, the act of wonder, is a form of discovery. The future will bring new visitors, and with them, new questions. Some may reveal familiar patterns, echoes of what we already know. Others may surprise us, with compositions, shapes, or paths unlike anything we have seen before. Still, others may remain mysteries, too faint or too fleeting to study in detail. And yet, each one will be valuable. Each one will add to the story. Each one will deepen the mystery that keeps our curiosity awake. For science thrives not only on what it explains, but also on what it cannot yet explain. And wonder thrives in that space, in the quiet gap between knowledge and possibility. It is in that space that imagination takes root, that hope blooms, that the human spirit stretches outward. So let us not fear the unknown. Let us cherish it. For the unknown is not emptiness, but potential. It is the canvas upon which we paint our dreams, the silence into which we speak our questions, the darkness into which we shine our lights. And interstellar visitors, fleeting though they are reminders of that truth. As you drift into rest, think of the future of wonder. Think of the travelers still unseen, moving now through the galaxy, destined one day to pass by our sun. Think of the scientists who will measure them, the storytellers who will describe them, the children who will dream of them. Think of the way each visitor, in its own quiet passage, will renew the sense of awe and imagination that has guided humanity for so long. And most of all, think of yourself as part of that future. For wonder is not only something we receive, it is something we create. Each time we look up, each time we ask, each time we allow ourselves to feel the quiet thrill of being alive in a universe so grand. The future of wonder is not far away. It is here, in the heart that listens, in the mind that dreams, in the voice that whispers. There is always more. When we think of time, we often think of it in human terms. The ticking of a clock, the passing of days, the turn of seasons, the span of a lifetime. For us, time is measured in heartbeats, in memories, in generations. Yet, when an interstellar visitor drifts into our sky, it carries with it a different kind of time, a time so vast that it is almost beyond comprehension, a time without measure. Consider the path of such an object. Long before humans learned to write, long before Earth itself was home to forests or oceans as we know them, these fragments were already moving. Cast out from their parent stars, flung into the dark gulfs between suns, they wandered. For millions of years, perhaps for billions, they traveled, unhurried, untouched, carrying within them the quiet memory of their birthplaces. When we detect them, it is as though we are catching a glimpse of a story written across eternity. A shard of rock or ice, older than any city, older than any species we know, suddenly passes through our solar system, and for a brief moment, its ancient journey and our fleeting existence intersect. To reflect on this is to feel a humbling contrast. A human life may span 80 or 90 years, a century at most. Civilizations rise and fall across millennia. But what is a millennium to a traveler that has wandered for 100 million years? What is a century compared to the timeless drift between the stars? And yet, for all its enormity, this scale of time does not diminish us. Rather, it expands us. To realize that we can notice, to realize that we can measure and imagine such spans, is itself remarkable. We are creatures of moments, and yet we are able to reach, with our thoughts, into eons. In that reaching, we bridge the gap between the fleeting and the eternal. When an interstellar object enters our solar system, its passage may last only a short while, perhaps a few months, perhaps a year or two. In cosmic terms, this is a blink of an eye. It comes, it goes, and then it is gone, fading back into the darkness, continuing its endless voyage. But for us, that blink is enough. Enough to study, enough to wonder, enough to feel the echo of deep time brushing against our own brief moment. Think of it like a river. The river has been flowing for ages, and will flow long after we are gone. But if we sit by its banks, for even a moment, and listen to its water, we become part of its story. So it is with interstellar visitors. They are rivers of stone and ice, flowing across the galaxy. We pause to watch, to listen, to reflect, and in doing so, we join them, if only for a breath of eternity. Time without measure also teaches us patience. In our world, we are often driven by haste, by deadlines, by the sense that everything must happen quickly. Yet these travelers remind us that not all journeys are rushed. Some paths unfold slowly, across ages, with no need for urgency. To move through the galaxy for millions of years is to embody a kind of patience that we, as fleeting beings, rarely know. To imagine such patience is to feel, perhaps, a quiet peace. There is also something comforting in the thought that these objects have seen more than we ever will. They have drifted past countless stars, through clouds of dust, across regions of emptiness so vast that words fail. They have endured cold, endured silence, endured solitude, and still, they move. Their journeys are not hurried, not forced, but steady. To reflect on this is to remember that time can be endured, that even in silence, movement continues. And perhaps that is why their visits feel so significant. For in their presence, we sense not only the vastness of space, but also the vastness of time. We are reminded that our world, our history, our lives, are moments within something far greater. Yet we are also reminded that those moments matter, for they are the only moments in which we can witness, imagine, and feel wonder. As you think of these travelers, imagine their journeys. Imagine a fragment born in the fiery youth of a distant star, cast outward in a burst of chaos. Imagine it drifting for ages, through lightless reaches, passing unseen. Imagine it entering our skies, briefly touched by the warmth of our sun, briefly seen by human eyes, before it continues on. Imagine the span of its voyage, measured not in years or centuries, but in millions of years, in billions of miles. This is time without measure, and yet, here you are, noticing it. To encounter such an object is like reaching across time itself, like touching the hand of eternity for a heartbeat. And though the moment is brief, it leaves a lasting imprint on our perspective. For once you have glimpsed the timeless, it becomes part of you. It lingers, like a quiet echo, reminding you that your life, though fleeting, belongs to a universe where time flows endlessly. And so, as you rest, let this thought bring you calm. The travelers of the stars move on their paths, unhurried, patient, eternal. You, too, move along your path, brief, but meaningful. And in the moment where those paths cross, you are reminded of a truth as old as the stars. That time is vast, but wonder makes it intimate. That eternity is distant, but awe brings it close. That even in a universe of time without measure, a single moment of noticing is enough. When we see an interstellar visitor, what are we really seeing? On one level, it is simple, a rock, or a shard of ice, drifting on its path. There is no intention in its movement, no message carved upon its surface, no voice carried in its silence. It is, in the most literal sense, a fragment of matter obeying the laws of physics. And yet, when we gaze upon it, we often feel something more. We feel that it means something, that its arrival is not just a coincidence of orbit and gravity, but a reminder, a sign, a story. Why is that? Why do we see meaning where the universe offers only motion? Perhaps it is because meaning is not only found, it is made. As humans, we are meaning makers. We take the raw material of existence and shape it into patterns. A sunrise becomes not just light, but hope. A storm becomes not just weather, but challenge. A fragment from another star becomes not just a rock, but a symbol of connection, of wonder, of the infinite paths that cross through the cosmos. This does not make the meaning less real. On the contrary, it may make it more. For meaning does not have to be written into the universe in order to be true. It only has to be written into us, and carried in the ways we see, feel, and remember. Think of the echoes of ancient times. Long ago, a comet streaking across the sky might have been seen as an omen, a whisper from the gods, a warning, or a blessing. Today, we know the science of comets, their icy nuclei, their glowing tails shaped by solar winds. But does that erase the meaning they once held, or does it simply transform it? Perhaps both are true. The comet is an icy body, and it is also a symbol. It is matter, and it is story. The two coexist, each an echo of the other. So it is with interstellar visitors. The raw data is clear: mass, orbit, velocity. But alongside the data is the story we tell. The story of a messenger from another star. The story of a fragment older than our species, passing by just long enough for us to notice. The story of how small we are, and how grand the universe is. These stories are echoes of meaning. Resonances that arise when we allow the silence of the cosmos to touch the imagination of the human heart. There is something beautiful in the fact that we are capable of such resonance. A stone moves through space, unaware. But when it passes near us, we awaken to it. We attach meaning to its motion. We let it remind us of connection, of mystery, of time without measure. And in doing so, we create significance where otherwise there was only silence. This act of creating meaning is not a flaw. It is not foolishness or fantasy. It is part of what it means to be human. For without meaning, knowledge alone can feel empty. But with meaning, knowledge becomes alive. Numbers become stories, facts become reflections, and events become experiences that shape us. It is important to recognize the balance. To see meaning does not mean ignoring reality. We know that interstellar visitors are not omens. We know they do not arrive to send messages. Yet we also know that their presence can inspire, that their journeys can become metaphors, that their silence can stir questions of who we are and what place we hold in the cosmos. To live with both, with truth and with meaning, is to live fully. Perhaps this balance is itself the lesson. The universe does not dictate meaning to us. It offers us matter, motion, energy, and light. It is we who listen for echoes, we who shape the patterns. We who decide that a brief encounter with a rock from another star is more than coincidence. It is a reminder of something larger. In this way, meaning is not handed to us, but grown within us, nurtured by our wonder. And so, when an interstellar traveler drifts into view, its significance is not in what it is, but in what it awakens. For some, it may awaken curiosity. What world did it come from? What processes shaped it? For others, it may awaken reflection, how brief our lives are, compared to such journeys. For still others, it may awaken poetry, imagination, dreams. Each response is unique, yet each is true. Meaning echoes differently in every mind, but the resonance is shared. This is the gift of the cosmos, not answers carved in stone, but questions that echo. Questions that stir us, not to certainty, but to wonder. And in that wonder, we find meaning, not because the universe decrees it, but because we create it, because we need it, because we are capable of it. As you rest tonight, think of those echoes. Think of how a silent fragment from another star can ripple through human thought, becoming story, science, philosophy, and dream. Think of how meaning arises not in the stone itself, but in the meeting between the stone and the human heart. And let that remind you that meaning is always close, not something we must wait for the universe to give, but something we carry within us, waiting to be awakened. For in the end, meaning is not about the object, it is about the echo it leaves behind. There is a quiet philosophy that emerges when we look up at the night sky. It is not written in books, nor spoken by teachers. It is carried in silence, in the shimmer of starlight across vast darkness, in the patient turning of galaxies. It is the philosophy of the stars. This philosophy does not argue. It does not demand belief. It simply exists, waiting for us to listen. When we pause beneath the night, when we allow ourselves to be still, we begin to hear it, not in words, but in impressions, in feelings, in the slow unfolding of perspective. One of its lessons is humility. The stars remind us that we are small. The distances are unthinkable, the numbers staggering. A single light in the sky may have traveled millions of years to reach us, beginning its journey long before humans walked the earth. To stand under such immensity is to remember that our worries, though real, are fleeting. The universe has room for them, but it does not revolve around them. Another lesson is patience. The cosmos moves on scales of time that we can barely comprehend. Stars are born, live, and die over billions of years. Galaxies drift and merge like clouds across eons. Against such a backdrop, our lives are brief flickers, yet that brevity does not make them meaningless. Instead, it reminds us to cherish them, to know that each moment, though small, is precious because it will not return. The stars also teach us connection, for though the distances between them are vast, they are woven into constellations by our eyes and into galaxies by gravity. Every star, every planet, every drifting object is part of a larger whole, and so are we. The atoms in our bodies were forged in the hearts of ancient stars, scattered into space, and gathered again into the form we call ourselves. To look at the sky is to look at our own origins. In this quiet philosophy, even a lone interstellar rock becomes a teacher. It drifts silently, unaware of us. Yet its path through our skies awakens wonder. It reminds us of humility, patience, connection. It stirs our imaginations and invites us into reflection. It is a fragment of another place. And yet, in passing, it becomes part of our story. This philosophy does not insist on answers. Instead, it offers presence. The stars will shine whether or not we understand them. The interstellar visitors will come and go, whether or not we give them meaning. Our role is not to control or to solve, but to notice, to reflect, to allow their silence to shape us. Perhaps this is why the night sky has always been a source of calm. When our minds are restless, the stars offer stillness. When our thoughts are tangled, the vastness offers perspective. When our hearts feel heavy, the quiet glow reminds us that we are part of something larger, something enduring. The philosophy of the stars is not one of words, but of presence, an invitation to rest in the immensity of existence. And so, as you drift toward sleep, imagine the stars above you. Imagine their patient light stretching across endless distances. Imagine the slow drift of galaxies, the quiet passage of interstellar travelers. Let this philosophy of stillness seep into your thoughts. Let it remind you that meaning does not always have to be chased. Sometimes it is found in simply being, in simply noticing, in simply existing within the great unfolding of the universe. The stars do not rush. The stars do not cling. They burn, they fade, they rise, they set. Their lesson is simple. To be is enough. And in that, perhaps, is the deepest philosophy of all. And so, the interstellar traveler drifts on. It does not stop, nor does it turn back. It has no anchor, no destination within our skies. Its path is written in the quiet mathematics of momentum, a trajectory carved long before we even knew to look for it. For a brief time, it shared its presence with us, crossing through the domain of our sun, catching the attention of our telescopes, and sparking the imaginations of those who listened. But like all visitors from the deep, it moves on, returning to the vast silence of interstellar space. There is something poignant in that departure. We are used to cycles, the return of the seasons, the rising of the sun, the familiar constellations that come back each year. But this visitor is not bound to return. Its passage is singular, fleeting. We saw it for a moment, and then it slipped away, perhaps never to be seen again. There is a kind of beauty in that impermanence, a reminder that not all wonders can be kept. Some exist only to be witnessed, briefly, before they vanish beyond reach. Astronomers track its fading light as long as they can. At first, it appears clear against the black canvas of space, a small point moving against the stars. But with each passing day, it grows fainter. Its distance increases, its light dims, and soon it becomes invisible to even the most sensitive instruments. Beyond that point, it is only memory. We know it continues, but we can no longer see. And yet, the thought of it remains vivid. Imagine it now, traveling beyond the orbit of the outer planets, slipping past the icy realms of comets and dust. Imagine the dark beyond, where the sun becomes just another star, where cold and silence reign. The visitor sails through that darkness, as it always has, carrying within it the history of another star system, fragments of chemistry, of collisions, of time itself. It may travel for millions of years more, across gulfs of distance so great that even light would take ages to follow. Perhaps one day, it will cross into another system, become another fleeting mystery for another set of eyes. Or perhaps it will journey endlessly, seen by no one, silent and alone. For us though, the passage has ended. Its trace in our skies is gone. But this ending is not a loss. The gift of the visitor was not in its staying, but in its passing. In the awareness it stirred, the questions it raised, the sense of wonder it awakened. To see it fade is to remember that not all beauty is meant to endure. Some beauty is meant to move through us, leaving us changed, even as it continues on its way. There is comfort in this, too, because in truth, everything we experience is like this visitor. Every moment, every encounter, every day passes and moves beyond our grasp. But in passing, it becomes memory, and memory becomes part of who we are. Just as the interstellar traveler has left our skies but not our minds, so do the fleeting wonders of life leave behind echoes that stay with us. So let us picture it, one last time, as it drifts away, a small, silent traveler against the endless dark, moving not with haste, but with patience, as if it has all the time in the universe, and indeed, it does. We may never see it again, but in our noticing, it has left a mark. Its passage has been woven into the story of our species, a chapter in the great, ongoing dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. And now, it is gone. Beyond our vision, beyond our reach, still moving, still silent, still unknowing. But for us, the story lingers. When the visitor fades into the dark, what remains with us? It leaves no footprints, no fragments fall to earth, no relic rests in our museums. The interstellar traveler passes through untouched, leaving no physical trace of its presence. Yet, in a way, it leaves behind something far greater, not matter, but memory, not substance, but wonder. For those who gazed at it through telescopes, the memory is scientific. They carry the numbers, the trajectory, the velocity, the changing brightness as sunlight reflected from its surface. They hold the data, fragile yet precise, a record of a moment when something from beyond touched our awareness. Future researchers may study these numbers, tracing patterns, searching for meaning in the details. For them, the legacy is knowledge. For others, the memory is emotional. They remember the feeling of awe, of hearing that something from another star had passed among us. They remember the shiver of possibility of what else might be out there, drifting unseen, waiting to be found. They carry not data, but dreams, not equations, but questions. What worlds has it known? What stories could it tell, if it could speak? And for many, the memory is quieter still. It is simply the knowledge that we are not alone in our journeys through the cosmos. That fragments of other systems, other suns, move as we do, bound not to one world, but to the great openness of interstellar space. It is a reminder of connection, of how the universe is not a closed system, but a web of paths crossing, colliding, diverging. The visitor is gone, but the awareness of vastness remains. Perhaps this is the greatest gift of all. Perspective. The interstellar traveler teaches us that we are part of a wider story, that our solar system is not isolated, not separate, but one chapter among countless others in the book of the universe. Its passage reminds us that space is not empty, but alive with motion. That across the gulf of stars, fragments wander, sometimes intersecting with us, offering glimpses into a reality larger than we can imagine. And yet, alongside perspective, the visitor leaves us with humility. It reminds us of how little we see, how much escapes our notice. If we detected this one, how many more have come and gone unseen? How many wanderers have slipped through our skies before we learned to look? How many pass by even now, unnoticed, because they are too faint, too fast, too far? The universe does not revolve around our awareness. We are lucky to glimpse even a fragment of its endless motion. This mixture of perspective and humility is a kind of wisdom. It teaches us that wonder does not depend on possession. We cannot keep the interstellar traveler, but we can keep what it awakens in us. We can keep the curiosity, the awe, the sense of connection to something greater. These remain long after the object has disappeared. In this way, the visitor becomes a story. We retell it, not because it stayed, but because it passed. The brevity of its presence makes it precious. We write about it, dream about it, wonder what it means. We use it as a symbol, as a reminder, as a lens through which to see our own lives. For we, too, are travelers. We, too, are fleeting. And in seeing something so brief, we learn to treasure our own briefness. This is what remains, not the visitor itself, but the echo it left behind. An echo in science, in imagination, in philosophy. An echo that tells us we are small, but also connected, that the universe is vast, but also intimate, that even in the cold silence of space, meaning can arise. And so, though the visitor has gone, it is not lost. For as long as we remember, as long as we wonder, it is with us still, not as a point of light in the sky, but as a point of light in our minds, a spark of awareness, glowing quietly, reminding us of who we are and where we are. It is a gift that cannot be measured, cannot be weighed, cannot be charted on a map, but it is real, and it remains. Now, the visitor is gone. The last faint traces of its path have dissolved into the dark. The telescopes have turned elsewhere. The charts are complete. What remains is quiet, a deep, cosmic silence that stretches beyond measure. It is in this silence that the story finds its resting place. Far from our sun, beyond the icy borders of the solar system, the traveler continues. The light of our star grows weaker behind it, fading to a small, golden glimmer among billions of others. Around it, there is only the slow shimmer of distant starlight and the endless drift of dust, the texture of eternity itself. The visitor moves through it calmly, unhurried, unchanged, still carrying within it the memory of another home, another beginning. And here, on Earth, we rest beneath the same stars. The night sky stretches above us, vast and familiar, a dome of quiet silver light. Somewhere within that immensity, the traveler moves on. We cannot see it, but we can imagine it. We can picture its slow, patient motion through the void, a tiny reminder of how even the smallest fragments of the cosmos are part of something greater. Perhaps, in some distant age, another world will see it pass. Perhaps another civilization, with its own telescopes and languages and dreams, will glimpse it and wonder where it came from. Perhaps they will give it a name, write stories about it, trace its path as it crosses their sky. They will not know that it once passed by us, that once, we too watched it and felt the same quiet awe. But in that way, its journey will continue to connect beings who have never met across the great sea of stars. There is something soothing in that thought that the universe carries us all, not as separate stories, but as threads of one vast tapestry. We share the same light, the same mystery, the same slow unfolding of time. The interstellar visitor is one thread among many, weaving through the fabric of existence, brushing against our awareness before moving on to touch others. And as we think of that endless motion, we can let go. Let go of the need to know everything, to grasp everything, to hold every passing wonder. Let the story drift as the traveler does, freely, peacefully, into the unknown. For the unknown is not empty. It is where discovery sleeps, where meaning waits to awaken, where all stories eventually return. So, close your eyes now. Imagine the stars as lanterns hanging in infinite space, their light soft and steady. Imagine the interstellar traveler gliding between them, a quiet spark moving through eternity. Imagine the soundless hum of the cosmos, vast and calm, wrapping around you like a gentle tide. You are part of that stillness. You are made of the same matter as the stars, the same dust that drifts across galaxies, the same ancient atoms that once burned in distant suns. You are not apart from the universe. You are within it and it within you. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought is a small echo of cosmic rhythm. As the visitor continues its journey, so do we. Each of us moving through our own stretches of time, crossing paths, leaving traces, fading, and returning again in new forms. The universe holds us all in its patient motion. There is no rush, no fear, no ending, only continuation. So rest, now. Let the stars keep their watch. Let the quiet of the cosmos cradle your thoughts. Let wonder be your companion, and peace your destination. The visitor has gone. The night remains. And in that night, the universe whispers, not in words, but in silence, saying, "You are part of it all, and that is enough." In the stillness between stars, the traveler drifts on, a silent echo of beginnings older than time. Somewhere, light touches its surface. a memory of suns long gone, a whisper from worlds unseen. And here, beneath our sky, we too drift in our own orbits, carried by the same unseen current, bound by the same quiet mystery. The universe moves through us, as we move through it. So close your eyes, let the vastness hold you, and remember, you are part of everything that was, and everything that will be. Sleep, traveler. The stars are still watching,